Chapter 447. F***CK. What an evil title. Is this considered clickbait? Looking at the sudden appearance of Li Er and his wife, Lisa Schwan was speechless. Old Li's family had a hobby of sneaking into other people's homes. Last time at the workshop, Li Chengxian was also like this. Lisa Schwan had seen many ancient dramas in his previous life. In them, many emperors liked to go out in plain clothes. He didn't expect Li Er to also like to play such a vulgar trick. Looking at his and Empress Zhongxuan's casual clothes, people who didn't know would think that they were just a normal couple. All the land under the heavens belongs to the king, and all the people on the shores of the land are the king's subjects. Perhaps this kind of thinking was deeply ingrained in Li Er's mind. He felt that the whole Tang Empire was his, and it was nothing to go out of the palace and be a guest at a subject's home. As for eavesdropping, he definitely didn't do it on purpose. It was just a coincidence. Lisa Schwan was too engrossed in his memories just now. Otherwise, he would definitely have sensed that there was someone outside the house. Your humble subject pays his respects to your majesty. Lisa Schwan cupped his hands and bowed to Li Er, who was eyeing covetously. Don't talk nonsense. Quickly answer me. Is the place you were talking about the celestial world? Li Er was unmoved and continued to ask. Empress Zhongxun pulled Li Er's arm worriedly. She was always smart, but at this moment, she was very worried that her husband would be possessed. Since ancient times, many wise divine emperors had become muddle-headed and incompetent because of pursuing the illusory celestial path. In serious cases, their families were separated and their countries were destroyed. As an important official of the empire, how could Yin Lide not have such worries? He opened his mouth, but due to the power that Li Er was emitting at this moment, he could only swallow the words that were at the tip of his tongue. At the same time, he secretly prayed that Lisa Schwan would not say anything that would seduce the emperor. Your Majesty, this is just a humble subject's dream, not a celestial realm. Feeling Lisa Schwan's urgent and bloodthirsty gaze, Lisa Schwan secretly regretted acting tough just now. He didn't expect to attract the wolf. Never doubt the ancient emperor's pursuit of immortality. These people had reached the pinnacle of power in the mortal world. They no longer had any desire for wealth in the mortal world. The only thing they wanted was eternal life. For this, they did not hesitate to become tyrants. Is it really just a dream? Li Er asked unwillingly. It's absolutely true, but you just said that you can't tell which world is a dream and which world is reality. In the past, there was Zhuang Zhou who dreamt of butterflies. He couldn't distinguish between dreams and reality and eventually became one of the two Taoist sages. Now, you dream of such a real and bizarre world of immortals. Therefore, I want to know if the world of immortals really exists. Zhuangzi was the first to propose the idea of inner sage and outer king, which had a profound impact on the Confucian school. His three sounds thought was compatible with the three talents of the Book of Changes, so he and Laozi were called Laozi and Zhuang. The two were regarded as the two Taoist sages. Li Er stared at Lisa Schwan's eyes and asked word by word. As long as Lisa Schwan said half a lie, Li Er was confident that with his ability to read people, he would be able to see through it. Your Majesty, even if the world in my dream really exists, I dare to conclude that it is definitely not the world of immortals. Lisa Schwan directly cut off Li Er's thoughts and said with certainty, Why? Because the people in that world are no different from us. They are all mortal. They can get sick, hungry, thirsty, injured, and die of old age. Although the average lifespan of the people there is 20 to 30 years higher than the lifespan of the people of the Tang Empire, they are definitely not immortal. How can a world without immortals be the world of immortals? Lisa Schwan did not back down. He looked straight at Li Er and said in a deep voice, But you just said that the people in the other world can soar above the 9 heavens, dive hundreds of feet into the deep sea, transmit messages from 1,000 miles away, and even look at each other from 1,000 miles away. How can mortals do such a thing? Li Er was still unwilling to believe it and retorted, Your Majesty, don't think that the other world is too mysterious. In my opinion, the reason why they can do that is nothing more than borrowing some tools. Their engineering has been developed to the extreme, 100 times more advanced than the Tang Empire. That is why they can create those magical tools. You're saying that those tools were created based on engineering? Lier said in disbelief. Li Zishuan pretended to let out a deep sigh and said, "Now that things have come to this, I will tell you the truth. The engineering that I mentioned earlier included new mathematics, electricity, magnetic field, and electromagnetism. My master only taught me a small part of these knowledge. The rest was learned in my dream. In other words, my engineering belongs to the knowledge of the world in my dream." Learned in your dream? Li Er's eyes widened, and his breathing quickened. He muttered, "No wonder I always felt that your knowledge did not belong to this world. You can even create things like lightning. Now it seems that it is indeed so. Your Majesty, in that world, people call the ability to create new things science and technology. Engineering is the most important branch of science and technology. The telegraph that I previously built can, in theory, transmit messages from 1,000 miles away. If it is slightly modified on this basis, transmitting messages from 1,000 miles away will definitely not be a problem. This is the ironclad proof that that world is not the immortal world. If my engineering can be developed to the extreme, my Tang Empire will be able to create tools similar to that world one day. At that time, flying into the sky and flying into the sea will definitely not be an unattainable dream for ordinary people. Li Zishuan felt that his impromptu explanation today was perfect. In this way, if he invented something awesome in the future, he would no longer have to tell others that it was taught by his master. If he always bragged about his master, sooner or later, something would happen because some things were too much beyond this era. In the Celestial Master sect of Longhu Mountain, there were a few elders who had more contact with spiritual masterling Shu. If Lier felt that something was wrong and sent someone to investigate seriously, he would definitely be exposed. Moreover, by saying this, Lier would definitely place more importance on Gong Shui and him. This could be considered as a protective umbrella for himself and Gong Shui. I see. In this way, all the doubts can be explained. Engineering, what a good engineering! Lier's expression was inexplicably complicated. He, who had always been wise and decisive, didn't know how to treat Li Zishuan at this moment. Now, things were out of his control. After a long time, he said to Li Zishuan seriously, "Yinhuang College, you brat, do a good job. I hope that in my lifetime, I can ascend to the sky tens of thousands of feet high to see if there are immortals. I want the kind of long carriage that can travel 1,000 miles in a day and carry 1,000 people. I also want the kind of tool that can transmit messages from 1,000 miles away. In this way, in the world, who could be my opponent?" Li Zishuan sweated profusely. He really wanted to say, "Old Li, aren't you King asking for a little too much?" Chapter 448. Yes, Your Majesty. Li Zishuan smiled, but cursed in his heart. He resisted the urge to complain and bowed to accept the order. Lier nodded with satisfaction. Perhaps other kings would try their best to kill off unknown new things indiscriminately, but Lier was a pioneering holy lord. His first thought was not to kill, but to develop Li Zishuan's new knowledge to the extreme. As for whether or not Li Zishuan would threaten his rule, Lier wasn't worried about that at all. He had confidence in himself, and he also had confidence in his subjects and generals. The only thing that disappointed him was that the magical world that Li Zishuan mentioned was not the celestial realm. Then, were there immortals? Li Zishuan thought for a while and said, "Your Majesty, there's one thing that Your Majesty can be sure of. There are absolutely no immortals in the 9 heavens. Above the sky is the vast and boundless space. In the space, there are countless planets like Earth. In the world in the dream, their technology can reach a place hundreds of thousands of miles away from the ground. Therefore, Your Majesty is very sure that there are no true immortals in the sky." Lier's face turned ugly. "Is that so?" "It is indeed so." Li Zishuan saw that Lier seemed to be unwilling to give up on seeking immortality and Tao. So he continued, "My master spent his entire life pursuing the Tao of immortality. In the end, he achieved nothing and still died of old age. Before he died, he once said to your majesty, "Everyone wants to live forever. From kings to ordinary people, they all regard the prolongation of life as their deepest dream. But they don't know that longevity itself is the biggest joke." Buddhism seeks nirvana, Taoism seeks inaction, and Confucianism seeks neutrality. Different roads lead to the same destination. In the end, it is to turn people into stone. Turtles live long because they are slow, trees live long because they do not move, and only stone has existed since ancient times. Extinguishing human desires, severing human relations, severing the five senses, and blocking listening. Is this still human? You don't know the difference between cold and heat, smell and smell, right and wrong. You don't have any thoughts of home or country. You don't have any concept of family. You don't have any concept of family. You don't have any joy. You don't have any sorrow or joy. You're no different from rotten wood. The reason why humans are different from beasts is that we have the ability to think, understand etiquette, know familial love, know how to work, know how to create, know how to change the world, and also know how to create the world, making everything in the world work for us. This is the duty of humans. They surpass their own abilities in vain in pursuit of the illusory immortality, but they don't know that the heavens have already arranged for them. If they want immortality, they have to turn into stone. It's laughable that the people of this world are ignorant like moths to a flame. Yin lied, and Empress Zhongsun heaved a sigh of relief, secretly praising Li Zixuan for being sensible and understanding. They felt that since the words had reached this point and there was so much sufficient evidence, Li Er shouldn't have any improper thoughts about immortality, right? The facts prove that this was indeed the case. After listening to Li Zixuan's long speech, Li Er's heart was half cold. He was silent for a long time, then faintly sighed and said, "The gods, Buddhas, ghosts, and monsters recorded in your book Journey to the West were all fabricated?" Li Zixuan was shocked. It was said that Li Er suppressed Buddhism and valued Taoism, but he didn't expect that he would actually read this kind of deviant novel. Previously, he didn't publish Journey to the West and sell it mainly because he was considering Li Er's attitude towards Buddhism. For a while, he was worried that Li Er would settle accounts with him after reading this novel, but he didn't expect that Li Er not only secretly finished reading it, but also didn't find trouble with him. In fact, he thought too much about it. Later generations said that Li Er suppressed Buddhism and valued Taoism mainly because the Li family respected lousy Li Er as their ancestor and advocated Taoism, which was beneficial to the orthodoxy and holiness of the imperial power of the Tang Dynasty. But in fact, Li Er didn't have much bad feelings towards Buddhism. On the contrary, the entire Li family had a lot of relations with Buddhism. Li Er's youth was the period when Buddhism was popular throughout the country. At that time, the father and son emperor, one of Sui and Emperor Yang of Sui, believed in Buddhism. The people of the world were swept away by the wind, competing to admire Buddhism. The Buddhist scriptures among the people were dozens of times more than the 6 scriptures. The influence of Buddhism had already widely seeped into all levels of society and all aspects of social life. At that time, worshipping Buddhism had already become a common trend inside and outside the imperial court. Of course, the noble family of the Li family was no exception. In the second year of Day, when Li Er was 9 years old, he suffered from eye disease. Li Yuan once personally went to the Chang and cottage temple to worship Buddha and ask for blessings. After Li Er recovered, Li Yuan created a stone Buddha and sent it to the temple for worship. These couldn't help but leave a mark in Li Er's young heart. Later, he never forgot this childhood experience. He once personally wrote a poem to praise the founder of the cottage temple, Kumarajiva, to express his reverence and remembrance for the previous generation of eminent monks. In the early days, the Li family respected Buddhism. This could be seen from the childhood names of Li Yuan's sons. Li Jinqing's childhood name was Sanhu, and Li Yuanji's childhood name was Sanhu. These were all names related to Buddhism. Although Li Er's childhood name wasn't recorded in history books, it was certain that it was related to Buddhism. In the third year of Wuda, Li Er, who was still the Qin king, was ordered to conquer Wang Shichong. The next year, he fought between Song and Luo. Zhao, Hui Yi, Tanzong, and the other 13 monks guarding the Shaolin temples by Gu Zhuang captured General Wang Renzi and presented him to the Tang army. Li Er took advantage of the situation to defeat Wang Shichong. This was the famous incident of the 13 staff monks saving the Tang king. Because of this, Li Er had a good impression of Shaolin Temple and Buddhism. However, during the Black Tortoise Gate incident, Buddhism had secretly helped Li Jianqing. This made Li Er very angry after the incident, and he also had a trace of disgust towards Buddhism. At the beginning of the Li Tang dynasty, they had once respected Laozi as their ancestor, so Li Er simply proposed the policy of Taoism before Buddhism. But so far, he hadn't introduced any obvious policies against Buddhism. In the Tang dynasty, the Li family pursued the policy of coexistence of Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism. Li Er was the founder of this policy. Your Majesty, the plot in Journey to the West was indeed fabricated by me. I hope Your Majesty doesn't take it to heart. Seeking immortality and longevity is just an illusory delusion after all. Li Zishuan wiped the sweat on his forehead and cupped one hand in the other before his chest. Forget it. I'm here today to see how the preparation of your academy is going, not to discuss with you about seeking immortality and Taoism. Li Zishuan waved his hand and said. At this time, he noticed the huge sand table in the room. He roughly glanced at it and suddenly said in surprise, Li Zishuan, what is this? Previously, he and Emperor Zhongsun only heard Li Zishuan's description of the dream outside the door. They didn't hear Li Zishuan and Yin Li's discussion of the Academy's blueprint. Li Zishuan was secretly scolding Li Er for being shameless. No one could force an explanation like him. At this time, when he heard Li Er's question, he replied, Your Majesty, this is the Yinhuang College designed by me. Next, I'll have to trouble Minister Yin to send some skilled craftsmen to Mei Village and Yunshan to build it. Chapter 449. Oh, so this is Yinhuang College. You're really creative. You actually shrunk the layout of the college to such a size. It's clear at a glance. Not bad, not bad. Li Er wasn't stupid. He could see the function of the sand table model at a glance. He walked to the front of the platform and looked carefully while praising. Your Majesty, the scale of this college is so huge. I'm afraid it's almost as big as the Imperial College. There are mountains, rivers, flowers, grass, pavilions, terraces, and pavilions. The disorder is picturesque. It's very beautiful, but why haven't I seen the style of the buildings before? Emperor Zhongsun also walked over with Li Er. She looked at the exquisite and beautiful Yinhuang College in front of her and sighed. Oh, this style is indeed not like the architectural style of my Tang Empire. Li Zishuan, come and tell me, and the Empress. Li Er nodded and waved his hand. Your Majesty, I call this big platform a sand table. It's a model of the future Yinhuang College that has been shrunk to a certain scale for people to see. The tall buildings inside are all designed by me with reference to the style of the college in the other world in my dream. As for the layout of the buildings, trees, mountains, and rivers, they are all in accordance with the true meaning of Taoism's yin-yang and 5 elements. It can not only ensure that the students have enough space to study, but also allow the students to relax after studying. Li Zishuan cupped his hands and said. Li Er heard him and asked curiously, Oh, the world you're talking about also has a college? Li Zishuan smiled and said, Of course. The reason why the technology in that world is so advanced is inseparable from their perfect education system. The college there is called a school. If a person wants to become a talent, he or she must receive at least 16 years of systematic education. 16 years. There must be a cause for every effect. Li Er nodded thoughtfully and said, Let's build it like this. Although these tall buildings look weird, I think they're quite magnificent. They're quite compatible with your engineering. Yin lied. Transfer a group of skilled craftsmen from the Ministry of Works to help build Yinhuang College. This old official obeys. Yin lied stepped forward and cupped his hands. Li Er nodded with satisfaction and turned back to look at the sand table model. This time, He wasn't looking at the buildings, but the mountains, rivers, and trees. At this moment, a flash of inspiration suddenly flashed through his mind, and he suddenly froze in place. "Your Majesty?" Seeing that Lier did not speak for a long time and just stared at the sand table, Empress Zhang's son called out softly, "Lisa Xuan, can your sand table simulate the topography of mountains and rivers?" Lier turned his head and looked at Lisa Xuan with bright eyes. Lisa Xuan stared blankly for a moment before he understood what was going on. He guessed that Lier had coincidentally discovered the miraculous use of the sand table model in a military formation and thus asked this question. In fact, when he decided to make the sand table, he had already guessed that Lier should be able to discover the mystery, but he didn't expect Lier to be so amazing that he could discover it with just a few glances. It could only be said that a person's success might be due to chance, but it was certainly not entirely due to chance. To forge iron, one had to be strong. Lier's knowledge in the field of military formations was still very impressive. Replying to your Majesty, this sand table can indeed simulate the topography. Whether it is hills, plains, or prairies, they can all be made on the sand table. With it, it is equivalent to having a three-dimensional map, which may be of great use for marching and setting up formations. Huh, of great use, it is indeed of great use. I will record your merit. I will ask the supervisor to send a master craftsman to learn the method of making this sand table from you later. You're not allowed to hide anything. I need a terrain sand table of the Liangzhou area. Lier laughed loudly. Yes. Lisa Xuan breathed a sigh of relief and cupped his hands in obeisance. Of course, he would not hide anything. Of course, he was willing to teach others the physical work of making a military topography sand table for Lier, because he still had a lot of things to do. Let's go back to the palace. Lier was satisfied with the results of this trip out of the palace. Not only did he hear some of Lisa Xuan's secrets, but he also obtained a military tool like the sand table. Seeing that there was nothing new in the room, Lier waved his hand disinterestedly and prepared to return to the palace. Empress Zhang's son deliberately fell 2 steps behind. She walked in front of Lisa Xuan and said with a smile, "You and Cheng Xian are good friends. I will call you Xiao Xian for the time being. It is my honor that your Majesty is willing to call me this." This was the first time Lisa Xuan had spoken to Emperor Zhang's son at such a close distance. The woman in front of him exuded grace, love, and kindness. It was as if there was a kind of magical power on her body that made people unable to raise their guard against her at all. Instead, they would involuntarily feel a sense of intimacy. Empress Zhang's son smiled and said, "Among the younger generation of the Tang Empire, I have never seen His Majesty value a person so much. Don't be complacent. The right way is to concentrate on learning and not disappoint His Majesty's high expectations. I know that you intend to carry forward engineering. As the disciple of spiritual master Ling Xiu, this is also a responsibility that you should take up. It just so happens that I have been entrusted by someone to send you a few students. Is that okay?" Lisa Xuan sighed in his heart. The students that Zhang's son wanted to send might be the children of the royal family, and none of those princes were easy to get along with. Wasn't Li Tai a super troublemaker in the past? Crazy troublemaker. If Lisa Xuan didn't have some skills, he would definitely have been messed up by that little fatty. But he had to give face to Zhang's son. Lisa Xuan could only cup his hands and say, "Since your Majesty has ordered, I dare not to disobey." So be it the second generation of the royal family. Logically speaking, Lier had already given his academy a lot of support. He should also return the favor. At worst, the academy would implement militarized management in the future. He didn't believe that he couldn't kill the prestige of this group of playboys. Empress Zhang's son nodded with satisfaction. Then she glanced at Yin Xiaoning, who was quietly acting like an obedient child, and said, "Yin Xiaoning, I heard that you haven't paid attention to worldly affairs recently and have been indulging in the way of machinery. Although your spirit is good, you have to understand the painstaking efforts of your father. Minister Yin, you are 3 years older than little Xian, but you haven't settled down yet. How about I see which minister's daughter is suitable in the future and arrange a marriage for you? How about it?" "What the hell?" Zhang Sun didn't like Yin Xiaoning, this technical geek, and wanted to introduce him to a wife. Yin Xiaoning hadn't expected that Empress Zhang Sun would make such a move at the last moment. He had been silent all this time in order to reduce his presence. Flabbergasted, he said, "Your Majesty, isn't this? Thank you for your kindness, Your Majesty. I will remember it in my heart. Unfilial son, quickly thank her." Just when Yin Xiaoning was about to refuse, Yin Lide hurriedly interrupted him and thanked Empress Zhang Sun with cupped hands. Chapter 450. Empress Zhang Sun finally left, but she left with a mysterious smile. She left quietly, but she left behind a bomb that could explode at any time for Yin Xiaoning. "Dad, why did you agree to it? I'm only 18 this year. Why are you in such a hurry?" Yin Xiaoning only mustered up his courage and said pitifully after Zhang Sun left, "Bastard, Her Majesty Hong Yin, are you going to reject her? Besides, what the Empress said is exactly what I'm thinking. Look, Xiao Xian is 3 years younger than you, but he's already married. What about you?" Yin Lide glared at him and said angrily. Yin Xiaoning shrunk his neck, wiped the spittle on his face, and looked at Li Zixuan bitterly. His eyes were clearly saying, "Damn it, it's all your fault. Sometimes it's a pain to have a friend who's too outstanding." Li Zixuan rolled his eyes helplessly, which meant, "Brother, I'm just that outstanding. There's nothing I can do about it." Yin Xiaoning almost vomited blood. If it weren't for the wrong occasion, he would have fought Li Zixuan to the death. "Ahem, Uncle Yin, I'll leave the construction of Yinhuang College to you." After exchanging glances with Yin Xiaoning, Li Zixuan felt a little uncomfortable because he felt that this kind of exchange was a little gay. So he looked at Yin Lide and said seriously, No problem. His Majesty has personally instructed that the Ministry of Works will fully cooperate with you. Fortunately, the higher-ups haven't given the Ministry of Works any urgent construction tasks recently. So according to my initial estimation, the Ministry of Works should be able to allocate 220 skilled craftsmen for you. A few of them have participated in the construction of Suiwei and Yuhua Palace with me, so they're very experienced in building buildings. As for the ordinary workers, you'll have to hire them yourself. The Imperial Court won't conscript them for free." Yin Lide raised his head and thought for a while, then said while stroking his beard, 220? That should be enough. As for the workers, I will definitely hire them myself. Uncle Yin, you don't have to worry about this. What I want to ask is, with the construction skills of the Ministry of Works, is it possible to build such a tall building? Li Zixuan nodded and asked. He knew in his heart that in the entire imperial court, except for Li Er and a few generals who were close to him who supported Yinhuang College, the rest of the ministers were either watching or objecting in their hearts. After all, this involved the competition between schools of thought. Under such circumstances, it was already very generous of Yin Lide to be willing to transfer so many craftsmen to him. As for the ordinary workers, he had never expected the imperial court to use corvée labor to help him conscript them for free. Since he had made up his mind to build Yinhuang College, he had never thought of saving money. The crux of the problem was whether the great Tang could build a 10-story building with its current construction techniques. Yin Lide took another careful look at the sand table, then pointed to the future teaching building of Yinhuang College, Guanghua Building, and smiled confidently. Little Xian, you're worried that the building is too tall and the craftsmen can't build it, right? Huh. Actually, you don't have to worry at all. This building only has 10 stories, and the total height is estimated to be no more than 120 feet. It won't be a problem to build it. Little Xian, you've seen the Big Goose Tower in Jinchang Square, right? That tower has a total of 20 stories. Compared to the Big Goose Tower, your building may occupy a larger area, but as long as you put in more effort into the supporting pillars between the floors, it won't be a problem to build it to 10 stories. The Big Goose Tower was located in Jinchang Square in the South Jin Dynasty of Chang and City. It was also known as the Buddha of Mercy Temple. After several renovations, it was 7 meters, about 190 feet tall, which was equivalent to the height of a 20-story building. 1,000 years ago, it could be called a skyscraper in the Tang Dynasty. However, The awkward thing was that Li Zishuan rarely went to the south of the city, let alone to the Big Goose Tower. This was worthy of his reputation as a homebody. That's good, that's good. Li Zishuan was a little embarrassed, but at the same time, he was relieved. However, he was still a little curious. Such a tall building would definitely not be built with only wood, because it couldn't bear such a large weight. But if it was brick, the problem would arise. There was no cement in the Tang Dynasty, so how would the wall be built? Uncle Yin, what kind of materials do you plan to use to build this building? Such a stupid question made Yin Lai speechless. He said, bricks, of course. Such a tall building can only be built with wood. Li Zishuan's old face did not look too good after being treated as a stupid C***. He directly asked the main question. Then what kind of material should be used to glue the bricks? Yin Lai's expression became even more strange. He paused for a while before saying, of course it's glutinous rice mortar. Little Xian, you don't even know this? Then why did you design such a tall building? I really don't know. This kid wants to design it first and see if it can be built. If it can't be built, this kid will think of other ways. Uncle Yin, are the walls made with glutinous rice mortar reliable? Yin Lai was speechless. He was still praising Li Zishuan for his proficiency in architectural design. Now it seemed that this guy was a complete novice in some aspects. He shook his head and said, of course it's reliable. The walls of Chang and city are made with glutinous rice mortar. Don't you think it's reliable? In fact, the ancient construction technology was far from as low as Li Zishuan imagined. Although there was no cement at that time, there were many substitutes. The West initially used clay as a cementing material. The ancient Egyptians used the mud of the Nile River to build uncalcined clay bricks. Around 3000 BC to 2000 BC, the ancient Egyptians began to use calcined gypsum as a building cementing material. In 146 BC, the Roman Empire annexed Greece and inherited the Greek tradition of producing and using lime. The way the Romans used lime was to first dissolve the lime's saliva and mix it with sand to form mortar. Then, they used this mortar to build buildings. Some of the ancient Roman buildings that used lime mortar were very strong and had even been preserved until now. Later, the ancient Romans improved the use of lime. Not only did they add sand to the lime, but they also added ground volcanic ash. In areas without volcanic ash, they added ground bricks that had the same effect as volcanic ash. Some people called the lime volcanic ash sand three-component mortar Roman mortar. In the history of European architecture, the Roman mortar had been used for a long time. Its performance was basically close to modern cement. However, in the 9th, 10th, and 11th centuries AD, the mortar technology was almost lost. In ancient China, although there was no Roman mortar or cement, the hard-working and intelligent ancient working people still invented other alternatives. The most widely used and the longest circulated was glutinous rice mortar. According to records, at least not later than the Northern and Southern dynasties, 386 to 589 AD, glutinous rice mortar had become a relatively mature technology. Mixing glutinous rice mortar with aged lime paste could increase the cement's strength, surface hardness, toughness, and impermeability of the mortar. It significantly improved the firmness and durability of the masonry. Today, many ancient buildings that used glutinous rice mortar, such as the ancient city walls of Nanjing, Xin, Jingzhou, Kaifeng, and other places, as well as the Ming and Qing fish-scale stone pond in Qian'an River, were still very strong despite hundreds and thousands of years of wind and rain. Facts proved that glutinous rice mortar was an outstanding building cementing material. The engineering quality of the ancient buildings built with glutinous rice mortar was not inferior to some of the modern reinforced concrete buildings. Therefore, the wisdom of the ancient people was not to be underestimated. The technology of the ancient people was not useless. There were still many shining points. Chapter 451. In the afternoon, Li Zishuan thought for a while, then took the carriage to the workshop. He wanted to ask Faubert to help and see if he could make cement. In the morning, Yin Lai said that glutinous rice mortar could be used as a binder between bricks and stones, but the cost was very expensive. In this era, although prices were low, glutinous rice was a grain that was 3 to 4 times more expensive than rice. It would be a very extravagant thing to use it to build a wall. Therefore, the houses of the Tang Dynasty were basically made of wood. Only the imperial palace, Zhao Ling Mausoleum, and the city walls could afford to use bricks and glutinous rice mortar. How could ordinary people afford to use such things? Yin lied, and his son also gave Li Zishuan a rough cost estimate in the morning. If Yinhuang College followed Li Zishuan's original intention and used bricks and stones, the cost of building materials alone would be more than 400,000 strings of coins, not including labor and decoration costs. This number had far exceeded Li Zishuan's budget. The reason was that Li Zishuan did not have a fresh understanding of the current construction technology and construction costs. Now, with such a huge capital hole, it would be harder to fill it in a short period of time than to reach the sky. However, Li Zishuan would definitely not give up on Yinhuang College. After thinking about it, Li Zishuan decided to gather everyone's wisdom and see if they could make cement with better effect and lower cost. There were so many protagonists in time travel novels. Didn't they like to make cement, perfume, and mirrors when they time traveled to ancient times? If they could make it, why couldn't he? Ahem. Although he was not a professional, he knew the general formula. He could tell Faubert and let the professional craftsmen study it. The glutinous rice mortar of this era was actually very close to modern cement. Some modern scholars often called the glutinous rice mortar of ancient times organic cement. He believed that if he could give them some inspiration, it would not be a big problem if he was lucky. Faubert, I thought of something. I need you to take some people to study it. However, I only know the general composition. As for the ratio of each component, you will have to test it yourself. After arriving at the workshop, Li Zishuan went straight to Faubert's private office and got straight to the point. Young master, what is it? Faubert asked curiously. Li Zishuan said with a solemn expression, I call it cement. It's a building adhesive that can be used to replace glutinous rice mortar. It's very important, and I hope that Faubert can bring a group of skilled craftsmen to research it. Cement? Replace glutinous rice mortar? Young master, are you going to build an academy? Faubert came to his senses and asked, I have already designed the building and layout of the academy. The main material is bricks, so we must use glutinous rice mortar. This morning, Minister Yin helped us estimate the cost. It will cost at least 400,000 strings of cash, so I plan to make a cheap substitute similar to glutinous rice mortar. 400,000 strings of cash? Faubert almost jumped up. Just from this budget, he could imagine how huge the Yinhuang College Li Zishuan wanted to build would be. He thought for a while, then clasped his fist and said, Since young master is so confident in this so-called cement, you can tell me the composition. The workshop is full of talents now. I believe that as long as we know the general composition, we could try to make it. This scene reminded Faubert of the last time when Li Zishuan asked them to study the glass production formula. Although he didn't know why his young master had so many novel and strange things in his mind, they could definitely make everything Li Zishuan said, as long as they followed Li Zishuan's ideas. Cement is a mixture of limestone, clay, and iron or in proportion. I call this mixture raw material. Then put it in a furnace for calcination. Generally, its calcination temperature is slightly lower than the temperature of smelting iron, but a little higher than the temperature of the glass you burned last time. It should be fine to use the kiln used to burn glass. The calcined product is called clinker. Finally, the clinker and gypsum are ground together and mixed according to the proportion. This is cement. After adding an appropriate amount of water into the fired cement, it will become a paste that can harden in the air and water. After hardening, it can be comparable to a hard stone. It can be used to firmly bond sand, stone, and other materials together to form a solid stone body of a hydraulic cementing material. In order to let Faubert and the others develop cement as soon as possible, Li Zishuan was also giving it his all. On the way here, he kept using his abnormal spiritual power to recall the firing temperature of cement that he read in the books in his previous life. It was about 1,450 degrees. The melting point of iron was 1,538 degrees, and the firing temperature of glass was 1,300 degrees. With this important information, he believed that the development of cement would be much smoother. As for why Li Zixuan didn't simply recall the proportion of the cement composition and tell Faubert, you think he didn't want to? The key point was that the books he read weren't books that specialized in making cement. Why would they be bored enough to write the proportion of each composition in the book? So even if he wanted to recall it, he couldn't recall it. And this old man will remember it. Young master, don't worry. In a while, this old man will organize the workshop's most elite craftsmen to start developing this cement. I think there should be news in the next few days. Faubert nodded, stood up, and said confidently. He was somewhat glad in his heart. Compared to the last time when they were developing glass, Li Zixuan gave them more detailed information this time. It would be much easier for them to really research it. Then I'll leave it to Faubert. Remember, the people who enter the mud kiln must wear a mask. Li Zixuan reminded him worriedly. He didn't want those craftsmen to get lung disease after a few years of work. Yes, young master, don't worry, this old man will arrange it. Also, the workshop's relocation plan will still be carried out, but you can delay the specific date for a while. Wait until I'm done with the Academy's matters in the near future. Faubert, you can go to Plum Village to claim the land. Li Zixuan rubbed his temples with a headache. If he said too much, he would cry. He didn't have enough money. At this time, if he wanted to move to the new factory area, he really didn't have the strength to do so. If the cement couldn't be developed, he would have to grit his teeth and fork out 400,000 to 500,000 strings of cash. His family didn't have that much liquid capital. Moreover, a while ago, his wedding was so grand and extravagant. It was all real gold and silver. However, he didn't regret it. This baby wife deserved that grand wedding. Yes, young master. Faubert cupped his hands in understanding and said. Chapter 452. All right, Faubert. How many glazed ware have you made? Just as Faubert was about to go out and organize the manpower, Li Zixuan suddenly asked. Previously, the workshop developed glass mainly to use it on the front cover of the compass. Later, as the fleet went south, the demand for the compass also declined. However, the glass kiln could not be idle. Li Zixuan ordered the workers to continue to produce glass cups and other glassware. Although the output was not very high, it must have accumulated a lot after so long. This thing can make a huge profit. If the cement could not be produced, selling this batch of glassware might be able to alleviate the urgent need. Young master, you finally remembered. Faubert was stunned and then said with a bitter face, previously, according to your instructions, the workshop's glass kiln continued to produce glassware. Now, those glassware have piled up in a room. There are at least more than 1,000 pieces. Speaking of this, Faubert's expression flashed with a hint of complexity. Before this, to all of them, glassware was a high and mighty luxury. If any family had a glass cup, wouldn't they treat it like a treasure? But now, the glassware in the workshop was overflowing. All of them were piled up in the warehouse like garbage. The world was changing too fast. Hee, that's just right. Faubert, arrange a group of people to package this batch of glassware in a while. The more exquisite the packaging, the better. I want to sell them at a good price. Li Zixuan said excitedly. He knew that the rarer something was, the more valuable it was. Taking out so much glassware at once, the average price would definitely be lower. However, he could not wait any longer. He needed a lot of money. Yes, young master. Faubert also heaved a sigh of relief and cupped his hands. This is not enough. Faubert, I still have a way to make glass mirrors. The process is very simple. Get someone to make 50 of them first. Li Zixuan did a rough calculation. These 1,000 pieces of glassware, in the most ideal situation, could only be sold for 50 to 60,000 strings of cash. So, he thought a very important derivative of glass, mirrors. He believed that as long as it was a rich lady, she would not be able to resist its charm. Naturally, it would be more profitable. Oh, young master, please tell me. This old man will remember. Faubert's eyes lit up and quickly said, Hee, this is very simple. Faubert, get someone to stick the tin foil on one side of the glass and then pour mercury. The tin foil will dissolve in mercury and become a silver-white liquid. Then it will become a glass mirror that is 100 times clearer than a bronze mirror, Lisa Schwann said confidently. Speaking of mirrors, it had a history of more than 3,000 years. In the beginning, people used bronze mirrors. It was a round plate made of bronze that had been polished until it was smooth and clean. The reflection of a human figure in this bronze mirror was not bright. It would also rust and had to be polished often. Around 1700 AD, the glass mirror was born. In the beginning, people made glass mirrors by sticking a piece of tin foil tightly on the glass and then pouring mercury. Because mercury was able to dissolve tin, it became a viscous silver-white liquid called tin amalgam, which was tightly attached to the glass plate. Glass mirrors were a big step forward from bronze mirrors and were very popular. For a time, it became a treasure that kings and nobles competed to buy. At that time, only the factories in Venice could make this new glass mirror. European countries went to buy it, and wealth flooded to Venice like a tide. The mirror factories were concentrated on Murano Island, surrounded by sentries and tightly sealed off. Later, the French government used a lot of money to bribe for Venetian mirror craftsmen and secretly smuggled them out of the country. Since then, the secret of the mercury glass mirror was made public, and its value was not so noble. However, the reflection ability of the mercury-coated mirror was not very strong. It was time-consuming to make, and mercury was poisonous, so it was later eliminated. Modern mirrors had a thin layer of silver on the back. This layer of silver was not painted on, nor did it need to be electroplated. It was painted on by a chemical silver mirror reaction. Glucose water was added to the ammonia solution of silver nitrate. The glucose reduced the silver ions into silver particles and deposited them on the glass to make a silver mirror. Finally, a layer of paint was applied. Lisa Schwann also wanted to make this kind of silver mirror, but it would take a lot of effort to make nitric acid. He wanted to leave this difficult task to his future students. As for the key material of glass mirrors, tin foil, it was already available in the Tang Dynasty. Tin foil was a handicraft product unique to Shaoxing in the early years. In ancient times, its main use was to make underworld money to worship ghosts and gods. It first appeared in the Han Dynasty. It can be done like this? Can it really be done, young master? Fauber was excited when he heard Lisa Schwann say, 100 times clearer than a bronze mirror, and quickly asked, "Of course, I don't have time to explain the principles of this to you, Fauber, but as long as you do as I say, you will definitely be able to make this kind of high-quality glass mirror." "Ha! Good. I'll arrange it now. Fauber couldn't wait and wanted to go out and take people to do the experiment. Lisa Schwann quickly stopped him and said, "Fauber, wait. What's wrong?" Lisa Schwann said seriously, "Mercury is very volatile. Once it is inhaled into the lungs, it will definitely cause poisoning. If the workshop wants to use this method to make glass mirrors, it must first solve this safety problem. Let's do it this way. You can ask people to sew a batch of special masks. Add a few layers of carbon powder inside the masks, and then use coarse cloth to separate them. The thicker the better. The people who participate in the manufacture of glass mirrors must wear this special mask." Faubert felt strange and said, "Young master, can't we just use the previous masks? Why do you need to do something superfluous?" "Of course not. We must use this mask. Faubert, listen to me," Lisa Schwann said decisively. "Ordinary masks are only used to prevent particulate matter, which is commonly known as dust. However, mercury vapor is poisonous and harmful gas, so they must wear that kind of protective equipment that includes a filter device. If it weren't for the lack of conditions, Lisa Schwann would have asked people to make gas masks." "Yes, young master. Then this old man will go and arrange these matters now." Faubert had no choice but to do as he was told. Faubert, you go and do your work. I'll go to the editorial department at the back office." Lisa Schwann thought about it, and also went out with Faubert. In order to sell this batch of glass at a good price, the necessary publicity was indispensable. So he had to ask Majot to design the advertisement in advance. At this time, the superiority of Tang Daily was completely reflected. They could advertise themselves at any time. Chapter 453. Hubby, did something happen to you recently? At night, Li Zishuan's bedroom in the west courtyard of the Li residence. Han Yushi hugged Li Zishuan's arm and looked up at him. Oh, it's nothing. Wife, why you ask? Li Zishuan turned sideways and pulled his wife into his arms as he asked with a smile. Han Yushi, who had just finished bathing, was wearing smooth and white silk pajamas, which showed off her exquisite figure. The faint fragrance of flower petals from her body went straight into Li Zishuan's nostrils. It was really comfortable and smelled good to hold such a lovely person in his arms. It really made a certain someone a little restless. Oomph. Hubby, don't try to hide it from me. Han Yushi twisted her body and pouted unhappily. I heard that Minister Yin came to our house this morning to make a budget for hubby's Yanwan College. It should be because we don't have enough money, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have run to the workshop on such a hot day. With his lie exposed, Li Zishuan put down the wolf claws on her back embarrassedly and wondered, Wife, who did you hear this from? Oomph. I'm not telling you. Han Yushi shook her head and didn't answer. Then she asked seriously, Hubby, tell me the truth. How much money do you need? It's just a small amount. Wife, don't worry about money. I already have a way. Let's sleep. Li Zishuan felt that it was a waste of time to talk about money on such a beautiful day. It was better to use it to improve their relationship. Hubby, stop fooling around. Why don't you make things clear first? If your college is short of money, I can take out the dowry first. Hubby, your Yanwan College is a task that His Majesty personally handed to you. We can't slack off. Han Yushi broke free from a certain someone's bear hug and said seriously, Don't. Li Zishuan quickly waved his hand and said, I, your husband, have not fallen to the point of using my wife's dowry. To tell you the truth, I have countless ways to make money in my head. I can get as much wealth as I want in this world. Wife, don't worry. In 2 days, you will see a lot more money in our family. When the time comes, I'll give you another gift. When Han Yushi saw Li Zishuan's confidence, her heart was relieved. When she heard the last sentence, her curiosity was really aroused. She quickly asked, What gift? It's a secret. Wife, tell me, how is your study with my mother coming along? I can't even see you during the day. Still far from it. The more this concubine learns, the more this concubine feels that mother really knows a lot. If this concubine can be like mother and manage the household in an orderly manner, that would be great. Oh, by the way, this concubine has also been learning from Iron Egg, my husband's new arithmetic. Mother said that it will be faster to use this to keep accounts. Looks like this mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship is quite good. This way, I won't be stuck in the middle in the future, right? Li Zishuan listened to Han Yushi's explanation and thought happily in his heart. If my wife wants to learn arithmetic, why do you have to look for Iron Egg? Can't you just look for your husband? How about this? Every night in the future, your husband will teach you arithmetic? No way. Husband, I'm afraid that you will teach me on the bed. Han Yushi smiled slyly and rejected. You know me best, my wife. You have to do it, even if you can't. Let's practice it tonight. The next morning, many people bought a copy of a newspaper out of habit after breakfast. Those who were observant could easily notice that there was an unusual piece of news in the newspaper. It was unusual because the content was an advertisement and its position was on a news page. The Tang Daily had developed to this stage, and the functions of each section were very clear. For advertisements, Majot had specially opened up a small space in the middle column of the newspaper to advertise the various restaurants and guest houses in Chang and City. There had never been an advertisement in the news like today. Speaking of which, Li Zishuan was also forced. He went to the editorial department yesterday to look for Majot and asked Majot to arrange an advertisement for him tomorrow to promote the batch of glassware from the workshop. Who knew that Majot would tell him that the advertisement slots in Tang Daily were recently full. If Li Zixuan wanted to cut the queue, then he would have to cancel an advertisement at the last minute. Li Zixuan had been busy with the academy recently and did not have time to read the newspaper. He did not expect the Tang Daily to be so popular now that so many businesses wanted to advertise in it. He found yesterday's the Tang Daily and opened it. The middle column was crowded with small advertisements, and it made his scalp tingle. This would not do. If his advertisement was placed in there, wouldn't it be drowned in an instant? Therefore, this guy started to play with his privileges and asked Ma Zhou to write an advertisement to advertise in the official section. Hey, there's something new in Qitu Pavilion again. Top quality colored glass cups and colored glass cups. Other than these, there's an even bigger surprise. We'll see it tomorrow. After reading the newspaper, other than complaining about Li Zixuan's advertisement in the main article, people began to discuss the contents of the advertisement with their friends around them. Colored glass cups? Colored glass cups? Qitu Pavilion actually has something like this? Didn't they say that only barbarians have these things? Someone questioned. Hey, what's this? Li Xianan was able to create so many strange things before. It's not strange that he can create color glass now. You're saying that this batch of color glass is produced by Qitu Pavilion's own workshop? Someone thought of the high price of colored glass and could not help but gasp. Huh, then what else? Didn't you see what the newspaper said? This batch of colored glass cups and cups is of a higher quality than the one sold by barbarians. Doesn't this mean that it was made by Li Xianan's own workshop? Hell, Li Xianan is really capable. I'll go and see for myself tomorrow. I wonder how much it will cost. After all, the newspaper said that this batch of colored glass is of better quality. I wonder how much more expensive it will be compared to the ones sold by barbarians. Someone frowned and said worriedly, Hey, I believe that it won't be too expensive. Weren't Tang Dynasty's books very expensive in the past? Ever since Lord Li's Qitu culture came out, ordinary people could afford to buy books. That's hard to say. Books are books. Lord Li sold them at such a low price because he wanted to benefit the poor scholars. Why is he selling the colored glass at such a low price now? Besides, who knows if the cost of the colored glass in Qitu Pavilion is high or not? They won't sell at a loss, right? Huh. I'm curious about what the bigger surprise is. Li Xianan's Qitu Pavilion has never disappointed me. Chapter 454. Bastard. I was actually tricked by this brat. He even dares to take my money. How preposterous. After the morning court, Li Er came to the Lijiang Hall and saw a Datong Daily on the table. He casually flipped through it, but something happened. What's wrong, Your Majesty? Who made you angry? Empress Zhang's son brought a glass of water to Li Er and asked curiously, Who else could it be? It's Li Zixuan, that brat. Li Er rolled his eyes angrily, then pointed at the advertisement in the newspaper and said, Look, Guanyin maid, this brat can already make his own glaze. He even deceived me last time. This is outrageous. Deceived? Where did this come from, Your Majesty? Empress Zhang's son glanced at the newspaper and then asked doubtfully, Have you forgotten, Guanyin maid? Last month, I asked that brat to make compasses for the fleet going south. That brat complained to me that the glaze on the compass was expensive and that he would lose money if he sold it cheaply. In the end, that brat sold 200 compasses to the imperial court at the price of 4 strings of coins each. At that time, his workshop would be able to make colored glaze on its own. That brat deliberately hid it from me because he wanted to make a fortune for me. Li Er slammed the table and said hatefully, Puffed. Empress Zhang's son couldn't help but laugh when she saw Li Er's angry look. Your Majesty, even if Xiao Xian's workshop can produce glaze by itself, that's also his own good fortune. Besides, the quality of their glaze is not inferior to that of the Hu merchants. It's understandable that they sell it at such a price. Li Er glared and said, Although that's the case, I'm still more or less uncomfortable after being tricked by this brat. Ha! Your Majesty is magnanimous. Why lower yourself to the same level as a child? You just finished the morning court. Drink some water. Empress Zhang's son smiled sweetly and handed the cup to Li Er. Lier took it and thought for a moment. Okay, forget it. I'll let this brat off on account of Guanyin maid. Empress Zhang's son joined in the fun and said, Then I thank your majesty for giving me face. Ha 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 ha. Maid Guanyin, you don't need to be so courteous. Oh, all right, your majesty. Xiao Xian suddenly took out so much glass to sell. Was he short of money? But this concubine doesn't think that child is short of money. Emperor Zhang's son had clearly seen the contents of the newspaper before. Now that Li Er had specially brought it up, she had some doubts. Oh, he must be short of money. Didn't maid Guanyin follow me there yesterday? The Yanhuang College designed by that brat is almost as big as my palace. Although there are not as many buildings as the palace, I'm afraid that it will cost a lot to build it. I don't know where that brat got the confidence to build such a big college. Li Er took 2 sips of water and muttered to himself. So that's how it is. I only saw the magnificent design of the academy yesterday, but I really didn't think about money. Your Majesty, how much do you think it will cost to build this academy? Empress Zhang's son said in surprise. According to my estimation, if it is built according to the scale on the blueprint, this brat will have to fork out at least 500,000 strings of cash. Otherwise, he won't be able to build the same effect as the sand table model. Li Er's knowledge was quite broad. After some calculations, he was actually pretty close to the mark. The budget of 400,000 strings of cash that Yin lied made before didn't include labor and decoration costs. It seemed that Li Er's budget of 500,000 strings of cash was reasonable. 500,000 strings of cash. Such a huge number made Empress Zhang's son, the mother of the country, couldn't help but cover her mouth in shock. Then she said worriedly, Although the Li family is rich, I'm afraid they can't fork out so much money. And now that the treasury is empty, the imperial court can't support him with money. Besides, this child, in my opinion, it would be better for him to build a smaller academy. It's all about teaching and educating people. What's the difference if the environment is better? Even if the treasury of Chang and city is full, the officials in the imperial court won't let me spend the money on Yanhuang College. Li Er sighed, patted Empress Zhangxuan's back, and said, Guanyin maid, you're still thinking too simply. Although this brat has just entered the imperial court not long ago, I have a clear understanding of his nature. No matter what he does, this brat is never someone who is content with his lot. Everything he does, he wants to be different from the rest and do it the best. Let him do as he pleases. Your Majesty, that's 500,000 strings of cash. Where can this child get so much money? Emperor Zhang's son was still a little worried. Guanyin maid, your worries are groundless. In terms of the ability to make money, no one in the entire Tang Empire can make more money than that brat. He must have a way to solve it. Li Er pulled Zhang's son into his embrace and laughed loudly. While advertising Chiziu Pavilion's Lioli, Li Zishuan also asked Faubert and Wang Zhong to start recruiting workers and craftsmen. Now that the Imperial College's field vacation had begun, there were only 2 months left for the construction of Yanhuang College. It would take more than 2 months to build at least 3 buildings: the teaching building, the dormitory building, and the cafeteria. As for the bathhouse, although it had to be built first, in terms of scale, it shouldn't be considered a building. Logically speaking, it was very difficult to complete. In modern times, it was simply a fantasy. However, Li Zishuan didn't believe it, because he had a lot of manpower and money. Yin lied, transferred 220 craftsmen who were proficient in construction from the Ministry of Works. In the workshop, there were also more than 100 craftsmen who knew how to build. In total, there were more than 300 construction elites, and each of them could command at least 30 to 40 workers to participate in the construction. There were also many experienced craftsmen among the people. Li Zishuan was rich, and he planned to recruit all of them. He wanted to use numbers to compete with speed. His plan was to recruit more than 400 experienced craftsmen and no less than 15,000 common laborers. With such a large construction team, he didn't believe that he couldn't complete the construction on time. Of course, it would be very troublesome to manage so many people. Li Zishuan definitely wouldn't do it personally. He wanted to leave this glorious and difficult task to Yin, Shouting, and Faubert. Even so, time was tight and the task was important. The earlier the construction started, the faster the progress. Thus, Li Zixuan was fighting on 3 fronts at the moment. On one hand, he let the elites in the workshop study the cement. On the other hand, he used a batch of glass to raise money. On the other hand, he was still recruiting craftsmen and workers. For the sake of Yanwan College, he was really worried sick. Chapter 455. Hey, we're hiring. We're hiring. Chitsu Pavilion Workshop is hiring. As long as you have the strength and can work, we're hiring all of you. 30 copper coins per person per day. If you do well, you'll be rewarded. If you have experience in building houses, 80 copper coins per person per day. If you want to sign up to earn some money, come and take a look. In the streets and alleys of Chong and City, as well as the villages outside of Chong and City, one could see 2 or 3 servants in green clothes and hats shouting at the top of their lungs. 30 copper coins per day? That high? You're not lying, are you? In the first year of Jingguan, prices were very low. Correspondingly, wages were not very high either. Ordinary people would only earn 10 copper coins per day if they worked tirelessly at the docks to carry sacks. Those who helped people build houses also earned about the same price per day. If you met a boss with a conscience, they would give you a raise. However, 20 copper coins per day was already the limit. Now, Li Zixuan was offering 30 copper coins per day, which was very attractive. The onlookers were all eager to make a move. The only thing they were worried about was the authenticity of this recruitment advertisement. Oh, brother, isn't it wrong for you to say that? Do you see the clothes I'm wearing? This is something only the people from Chitsu Pavilion can wear. Do you know Chitsu Pavilion? That's our young master's business. Do you know our young master? He's a baron personally conferred by the emperor, the recently promoted crown prince Zhan Shi. Let me tell you, if the workshop manager didn't say that I didn't have enough strength, I would have done it myself. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come all the way to Lu village to recruit people. When the servant heard that someone doubted him, he was immediately unhappy. This fellow was also a chatterbox. He put his hands on his hips and talked endlessly. He looked like a shrew scolding the streets. Oh, you're really from Chitsu Pavilion. I've seen you in the city before. I say, Lu Buju, you didn't look carefully before you spoke. The men from Li County are extremely wealthy. Why would they care about your little wage? Hey, brother, don't you think I'm right? A tall and thin young man first reprimanded the villager who questioned him. Then, he turned around and said to the servant from Chitsu Pavilion, Yes. Why would my Lord Ju care about such a small amount of money? Those who have come into contact with my Lord Ju know that he is kind-hearted and can't bear to see others suffer. Why would he do such a deceitful thing? The servant of the strange interest pavilion nodded in satisfaction, then proudly raised his head and said, Yeah, Lu Buju, you really are an ungrateful brat. Previously, when Li Xianan made the curved plow, he helped everyone in the manor. How can you say that? Lu Buju, you heartless rascal. You dare to doubt such a good person like Lord Li? I hope you don't get it up for the rest of your life. Brother, Lu Biji, sign up. Don't even mention 30 copper coins a day. If Li Xiansheng needs my help, I'm willing to do it for 10 copper coins a day. Damn, since when did I suspect Li Xianan? I didn't know that he was sent by Li Xianan. Brother, I didn't recognize Mount Tai just now. Please be magnanimous. My name is Lu Fuji, not Lu Buju. I also want to sign up. The man in gray didn't expect that a casual question would put him in a situation where he was surrounded by enemies. He quickly went forward to explain. Seeing that everyone's attitude had changed and they were all polite, the servant of the strange interest pavilion suddenly felt a sense of superiority. Working in the strange interest pavilion was still the best. Oh, that's not right. If I can be transferred to work for Lord Ju, I'll have a better future. The servant of the strange interest pavilion said happily. Don't fight or fight. As long as you have enough strength, you could be chosen. Yes. Do you see this rock in front of me? If you can lift it above your head, our workshop wants it. Everyone line up and take your time." The servant pointed at the 1-foot-wide rock in front of him and said loudly. Although Li Zishuan was short of people, he didn't hire just anyone. Those who didn't have enough strength would only cause trouble. The rock used to test people's physical strength was only 40 to 50 pounds. It shouldn't be difficult for most hard-working farmers. "Hey, such a big rock. Easy. I'll go first." The one who spoke earlier was called Liu Biji. He stepped forward and said loudly, "Bulsh *T. I'm the one who came first." He had finished his work and assigned the work to his subordinates. Li Zishuan had a rare moment of leisure in the afternoon. He sat under the pavilion in the courtyard, enjoying the breeze and eating iced grapes. He continued to write The Legend of a Mortal's Journey to Immortality. Recently, he was so busy that he didn't have time to write novels. If it wasn't for a batch of manuscripts, The Legend of a Mortal's Journey to Immortality would probably stop updating in the next few days. The fans of The Mortal would definitely go crazy. While he was writing happily, Li Zishuan suddenly felt someone beside him. He looked up and saw that it was the little fatty Li Tai. He couldn't help but stop writing and ask curiously, "Chinke, why are you here?" "Nothing much. I'm just bored in the prince's mansion, so I came out for a walk." Li Tai looked at the manuscripts on the stone table and answered absent-mindedly. Ever since Li Zishuan deliberately practiced writing for a period of time, the matter of ghostwriting for The Legend of a Mortal's Journey to Immortality was no longer his turn. This was because Li Zishuan's writing speed was much faster than his. This directly led to him not being able to enjoy the privilege of not being able to read the later chapters of The Legend of a Mortal's Journey to Immortality in advance. "You could just walk around to my house?" "Brat, you're too good at walking around?" Li Zishuan rolled his eyes and said, Didn't I hear from Imperial Father that Xiaoxian, you've already finished designing our Yanhuang College? This prince specially came to take a look." Li Tai laughed dryly and said the truth. "Hey, wait, that's my Yanhuang College. When did it become ours?" Li Zishuan didn't expect that this little fatty not only had so much fat, but also had such a thick skin. He couldn't help but be angry. "Hey, Xiaoxian, you're not interesting. Back then, I was the first to support Yanhuang College. Even if you're not grateful, you can't bite the hand that feeds you. Scram, I see that you haven't attended classes for a few days, so you've forgotten the dignity of a teacher." Li Zishuan lifted the big sword beside him, slammed the table, and said fiercely, Fine. Yours, it's all yours, all right? This prince is only here to take a look at your sand table. Is there a need for this?" The little fatty immediately dodged and kept a relatively complete distance from Li Zishuan. He knew that even if there were 10 of him, he wouldn't be able to defeat Li Zishuan. "Now, the sand table is in the side hall if you want to take a look." Li Zishuan waved his hand and sat down to continue writing his novel. Chapter 456. "Oh, this house looks so stylish. What the hell? How many levels are there?" 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10 floors. So stylish. Little Xian, your design is great. Damn, this house is also beautifully designed. TSK. I didn't expect that little Xian not only knows mathematics, but also landscaping. Damn, what is this? Why are there 2 nets on the grass? Awesome. Pavilions, terraces, rockeries, lakes, this is almost comparable to a palace. Little Xian, your design of Yanhuang College is too awesome. This prince's choice of going to Yanhuang College was indeed correct. Damn. I say, are you done yet, kid? Look at the sand table. Can't you shut your mouth? Ever since Li Tai had entered the side hall, the little fatty's screams had been continuously heard. Li Zishuan, who was in the pavilion, could hear it from far away. Even when he was writing a novel, he couldn't calm down to write. He couldn't help but shout angrily. Li Tai, who was feeling smug, was suddenly awakened by the roar. He shrunk his neck and thought that he was too excited and forgot where he was. Li Tai calmed down and carefully looked at the sand table model of Yinhuang College from beginning to end. The more he looked, the more shocked he was. The more he looked, the more fortunate he was that he chose Yinhuang College in the first place. Little Xian, this Yinhuang College's design is amazing. Although many of the buildings are different from the architectural styles of Tang Dynasty, I don't know why, but I still like this style. Yinhuang College must be built, no matter how much it costs. Little Xian, if you don't have enough money, I'll pay for it. The little fatty looked at it for a long time and walked out of the house. It was the first time he saw a modern reinforced concrete-style building, and he immediately fell in love with it. This guy's crazy look was very similar to a modern fanatic, but he was bragging a little too much. Oh, just right. I'm short of money recently. Li Zishuan put down his pen and glanced at the spendthrift in front of him. He smiled and said, "If you want to build the academy according to the sand table, you still need 350,000 strings of cash. Since you are so generous, you can pay for the rest of the money. In a while, I will ask my men to drive dozens of ox carts to the Prince of Wei's mansion to get the money." "How much?" Li Tai widened his eyes as his voice rose an octave. He said in disbelief, 350,000 strings of cash? How could there be so many? Little Xian, are you trying to scare me? At this moment, little Fatty's knees went soft, and he nearly knelt down. 350,000 strings of cash. Although he was a prince, it was impossible for him to take out so much money. Even if he tore down his mansion, it wouldn't be worth 350,000 strings of coins. Who has the time to scare you? If I want to build Yinhuang College, I'll need at least 500,000 strings of cash. I've only been able to scrape together 150,000 strings of cash these days. There's still a hole of 350,000 strings of cash. Chinke, you were shouting so loudly just now. I heard it all. A real man must keep his word, Li Zishuan said to the righteous Li Tai with a smile. Li Tai was immediately dumbfounded. He really wanted to slap himself. How could he be so smug and blabber without thinking? Now he was done for, wasn't he? Cough, cough. This 350,000 strings of cash is something that I don't have. If it's 20,000 strings of cash, I can still take it out. Little Xian, do you think that's enough? Li Tai immediately lost his arrogance and complacency as he weakly said, Hee, why don't you take out the books in your mansion and sell them? Chinke, you can probably get a few tens of thousands of strings of cash. Li Zishuan said maliciously, No, absolutely not. Li Tai jumped up as if his tail had been stepped on. He shouted, I'm taking care of those books on behalf of my father. If I sell them, my father will skin me alive. Hee, forget it then. You brat, you can't help here, and you can't help there either. Go away. Li Zishuan waved his hand as if he was shooing away a fly and said disdainfully. After that, he ignored the little fatty, lowered his head, picked up his pen, and continued to write his novel. It was worth mentioning that he had received more than 10,000 strings of cash as a reward for a record of a mortal's journey to immortality, which made him very surprised. When he wrote this novel, Li Zishuan didn't want to make money. He wanted to bring the style of web novels to Tang Dynasty and attract more people to write novels. That way, when he was bored, he could write novels to relieve his boredom. But who knew that this playful act would bring him such a huge income of more than 10,000 strings of cash? Although the Li family was rich, they wouldn't ignore 10,000 strings of cash. That's not right. Li Tai suddenly thought of something and shouted, If Yinhuang College is really that short of money, why aren't you worried, Xiao Xian? Why are you still in the mood to write novels? There are only two possibilities. Either you have a lot of money in secret, or you have thought of other ways to raise money. How is it? Am I right? Looks like this little fatty's brain is pretty good. But what's wrong with writing novels? I write novels to raise money too. Don't underestimate novel writers, Chinke. So far, I've only finished 1/8 of the legend of a mortal's journey to immortality. But according to the statistics of the editorial department of Tang Daily, this book has earned me more than 10,000 strings of cash. Think about it. If I finish it all, It might earn me 100,000 strings of cash. 100,000 strings of cash? Li Tai was stunned. He never thought that writing novels could earn so much money. After being stunned for a while, he shook his head and said, "Hee hee, it's no wonder. In the whole of Chang, and from 6-year-old children to middle-aged uncles, how many people don't know about a record of a mortal's journey to immortality? I even heard that this novel has become popular in other states and counties. It seems like it's understandable that it can earn you so much money." Hee hee. Back then, someone even wanted to use a salary of 20 strings of cash to hire me to write novels for him. TSK, TSK. It seems like that person really knows how to do business. Amazing. Amazing. Li Zixuan recalled the situation when he first met the little fatty and couldn't help but make fun of him. What the F***CK? Don't expose people's shortcomings when you're scolding them. How long ago was that? Why are you still bringing it up, Xiaoxian? Li Tai's face turned red as he said angrily. Huh. Fine. I won't talk about it anymore. It's time to get down to business. You little brat, go play by yourself. Chapter 457. All right, Xiaoxian. I heard that Curious Pavilion is going to sell a batch of glassware tomorrow. Li Residence, West Courtyard. Li Tai, the little fatty, didn't know what politeness was. He sat on the other side of the stone table with his legs crossed leisurely. He was eating iced grapes and watching Li Zixuan write his novel. After a while, he suddenly remembered the news in today's newspaper. It should be an advertisement, so he asked. Yes, that's right. Didn't you already know about the matter of the workshop manufacturing color glaze? What's so strange about it? Li Zixuan said without looking up. Last month, he gave Li Tai, Meng Wenhao, Li Yu, and Iron Egg a lesson in the workshop. Not only did he talk about the principle of geomagnetism, but he also touched on a knowledge of glassware manufacturing. I don't find this strange. When you used the glassware on the compass, I knew that you would use it to make money one day. What I find strange is, what is the bigger surprise you mentioned in the newspaper? Li Tai rubbed his hands and laughed. He looked a little wretched. Li Zixuan looked up at little fatty, curled his lips, and said, "This thing might be a surprise to others, but to you, Chinke, what is it?" Li Tai rolled his eyes. He suddenly had a very bad feeling. It's a surprise to others, but to you it's a shock, haha. Li Zixuan laughed. What he said was not without reason. The glass mirrors and strange interest pavilion were mainly for the beauties and rich ladies. Li Tai was a fatty with a face full of fat. Even if he bought a mirror back, he would not be willing to look at himself. F***CK, get lost. Why the F***CK is a shock to me. I want to see what it is. Li Tai said angrily. You'll see it tomorrow. Chinke, you'll see if I'm right. Ha! I'll be waiting. Little fatty slapped the table and left in a huff. Greetings, Your Highness. When Li Tai walked to the gate of the West Courtyard, Han Yushi happened to come back from Madame Li of the East Courtyard with 2 little servant girls. Seeing that it was Li Tai, Han Yushi subconsciously curtsied. Li Tai was so scared that his legs trembled. He hurriedly helped her up and said, "Sister-in-law, Shermu, please don't be so courteous. You've killed Tai. A few months ago, Li Zixuan had single-handedly challenged the mountain stronghold for Han Yushi. Li Tai had heard about it. Usually, he could play and joke with Li Zixuan, but that was just romance between men. Now, facing Han Yushi, he didn't dare to be too cheeky. Otherwise, it was hard to guarantee that Li Zixuan wouldn't kill him with a sword. Han Yushi hesitated for a moment. Only then did she remember that the prince in front of her was her husband's student. With such a complicated relationship, she didn't know how to address him anymore. Shermu, just call me Chinke. Sir is writing a book in the pavilion. He has something to do at the Tai residence, so he'll take his leave first. Shermu, please help yourself. I won't send you off. Li Tai waved his hand and fled. He didn't dare to hear Han Yushi call him His Highness anymore. If Li Zixuan heard it, he might make things difficult for him in the future. Are you still busy, husband? I just saw Prince Wei. why are you so flustered? Han Yushi came to Li Zixuan's side and couldn't help but ask. Huh? Why? You met that guy just now? Yes. I happened to meet him at the door. Did that guy use his identity to show off in front of you? Huh? No, he didn't. Instead, I felt that he was a little afraid of me. Husband, what were you talking about just now? Huh? Nothing. Wife, sit here for a while. Let's go eat together after I finish writing this chapter. The next day, when the East Market opened in the morning, a small group of people headed straight to Curious Pavilion with a clear goal in mind. Previously, the new carriage, Don't Touch Me, had brought many purple and even red members to Curious Pavilion. These people enjoyed huge discounts and priority in queuing. Whenever Curious Pavilion released a new product, they would be the first to arrive. To them, it was a profit if they could buy it. One had to admit that although Curious Pavilion's products were expensive, Curious Pavilion had already proven that everything here was worth the price with their high-quality products. Therefore, those who could enjoy the discounts always liked to shop at Strange Interest Pavilion. Curious Pavilion had already prepared for today. When the first batch of customers arrived at Curious Pavilion, they saw dozens of shelves in the open space. There were even red cloths on the shelves. Clearly, the shelves were filled with glass cups and glasses that were going to be sold today. Other than that, there were two huge signboards that were as tall as a person at the entrance of Curious Pavilion. They were still covered with red cloths, so no one could see what was inside. There was a lot of discussion below. Oh, Brother Chow, you're also here? Haha, I had nothing to do, so I came here to take a look. Chow Wendong chuckled as he fanned himself. Brother Chow probably isn't just here to take a look, right? In a little while, I hope that Brother Chow can leave some soup for us to drink. Those who had come a line up so early were not idiots. Many of them were merchants with a keen sense of smell. In this era, the glass of the Central Plains was completely supplied by Hum merchants. It could be said that the Hum merchants had a monopoly in this area, and the merchants of the Central Plains had no right to a share of the profits. They could only follow behind and eat the leftover rice and soup, earning a fee for running errands. The fact that the Odd Interest Pavilion was able to provide such a large amount of glassware made the peddlers move immediately. Most of them had membership cards for the Odd Interest Pavilion. In their opinion, being a peddler for the Odd Interest Pavilion would definitely earn them more than buying from the Hum merchants. These people had never considered the problem of not being able to sell their goods. Although Hum merchants came to the Great Tang to sell glass, they usually sold in very small quantities. Glass was a rare commodity in the Great Tang, so there was naturally no need to worry about not being able to sell it. Huh, what are you saying, Brother Mengyang? This Chow comes from a small family, so I don't have such a big appetite. Let's make money together. Let's make money together. Ha ha ha. Brother Chow is indeed a straightforward person. Ha ha. Brother Chow, what do you think those two things at the entrance are? This must be the surprise that the newspapers were talking about, right? As for what it is, this Chow doesn't know. Heh, Brother Chow, you're really modest. There are only a few merchants in Chang'an who can talk to Li Xianan. A few days ago, Li Xianan just got married. This one remembers that you went to Li Xianan's residence for a visit. Chapter 458. Sigh, why isn't shopkeeper's son here yet? Did he oversleep? How is that possible? You're in too much of a hurry. According to the usual practice, he should be here soon. Sigh, I wonder how the glazed cups they make compare to those sold by the barbarian merchants. Speaking of which, I still want to buy their horse carriage. I've been queuing for days, and I still haven't bought it. The new horse carriage, Don't Touch Me, was still in short supply. The workshop's production capacity had reached its limit, and it was impossible to produce more than 100 horse carriages in one go. Yo, Brother Zhang, what did you strike it rich? You can even afford a horse carriage from Curious Pavilion? Sigh, strike it rich? I can't not buy this horse carriage. My son has fallen in love with the youngest daughter of County Deputy Wu of Bailing County. County Deputy Wu didn't object to the marriage, but his daughter said that she doesn't want the wedding to be as grand as Lord Li's wedding. But when we pick her up, there must be a Don't Touch Me carriage from Strange Interest Pavilion. Otherwise, she will lose face, and she won't get on the bridal sedan chair. It was obvious that she was a love-struck girl who had been poisoned by Lisa Schwan. In the future, all the weddings in the Great Tang would probably use Lisa Schwan's grand wedding as a reference before holding it. Haha, Brother Zhang, you didn't lose out at all. You can marry County Deputy Wu's daughter with a horse carriage. Your Lin Lin is really lucky. The person beside him wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said resentfully, He's here. Boss Sun is here. Sigh. Don't push. I'm the one who came first. Bullsh *T. I've been here for a long time. I just went to the outhouse. At 8:45 in the morning, the door of the strange interest pavilion opened. Sun Huayuan walked out of the room with a flushed face. Everyone, please be quiet. Listen to this old man. Sun Huayuan smiled and cupped his hands towards the crowd, shouting loudly. The crowd gave him face and instantly quieted down. I know that all of you are here today to see the glazed cups and glazed lamps produced by my Strange Taste Pavilion. I won't keep you in suspense. Let's cut to the chase and show you the newest products of our workshop. Sun Huayuan said a few simple words and walked directly to one of the shelves. He reached out and lifted the red cloth. A row of glasses of different sizes and colors suddenly appeared in front of everyone. This is a glass cup? Oh my God, why is the color of this glass so clear? This is the real azure glass cup. The color is clear and bright, and it's as pure as ice. It's many times better than the glass cups sold by the home merchants. Because of the craftsmanship, the glass of this era was never clear and transparent. Basically, all the glass was turbid, with some having a greenish hue and some having a yellow hue. In short, the high-quality glass cups that the Oddity Pavilion was producing were unique in all of the Great Tang. Sigh, do you see the style? The style of this glass cup is also different from the ones sold by the home merchants. Look, the patterns on it are really beautiful, and the shape of the cup is also very unique. In the Tang Dynasty, the glass cups that the wealthy families bought from the home merchants were mostly bowl-shaped cups with a small foot at the bottom. They looked a little short and poor. The cups in the Strange Taste Pavilion were all carefully designed by Lisa Schwan. The modern thick whiskey glasses, the tall slender champagne glasses, the round and elegant red wine glasses, and the stylish cocktail glasses were all borrowed by him. Thus, many people were almost instantly attracted by the elegant appearance of these wine cups. Perfect. This is simply the work of nature. Shopkeeper's son, how much are these glass cups? Hurry and name a price. Chao Wendong had traveled extensively for many years and had seen all kinds of rare treasures, but he had never seen such perfect glass cups before. He had completely forgotten that he had just mentioned to the merchant called Meng Yang that they were going to make money together. He didn't want to share such a perfect treasure with others right now. He wanted to buy all of these glass cups. There were two reasons. First, in his opinion, if he sold such high-quality cups to other provinces and counties, no matter how expensive they were, there would still be people willing to buy them. Second, even if no one bought them, such beautiful cups could be kept at home to decorate his store. His only concern now was the price of these cups. With his wealth, would he be able to buy all of them? That's right. Shopkeeper's son, name a price. We'll buy. There was more than one person who had the same idea as Chao Wendong. Many people began to clamor. Everyone, please calm down. Once everyone is finished looking at them with this old man, this son will name the price together. Sun Huayuan smiled and clasped his hands together. Then, he continued to flip open the red silk cups on another shelf. The cups here look even better. That's right. Strange Taste Pavilion's products really don't disappoint me. There's so many patterns carved on this glass plate. TSK. Using this thing to serve dishes will definitely increase one's appetite. Sun Huayuan flipped open the red cloth on the 10 shelves of Strange Taste Pavilion one by one. At this time, the sun had just risen above the roof. The dazzling sunlight shone on the glass cups and cups. Some of the patterns on the glass reflected the sunlight and dazzled the customers who came to buy them. More and more people gathered around to watch the show. Strange Taste Pavilion suddenly became the focus of the entire East City, and the road became congested in an instant. All right, these are the glass cups and cups that our workshop has recently produced. Today's supply is very sufficient. There are a total of 1,500 pieces. As for the price, at this point, Sun Huayuan paused for a moment. He looked around and said, "This son has been doing business for many years, but I've never seen such high-quality glazed cups. If those barbarian merchants had such perfect glazed cups, this son believes that there would be people willing to buy them, even if they sold them for 100 strings of coins or 1,000 strings of coins. However, my Lord Zhu is not an insatiable person. Today we are only selling these glazed cups and cups for 80 strings of coins each. If you want to buy them, please line up later." 80 strings of coins? So expensive? Those glass cups that the barbarian merchants sell are mostly only 60 or 70 strings of coins. Idiot! How can those glass cups that the barbarian merchants sell compare to these from Strange Taste Pavilion? If you don't want to buy them, I'll buy them. 80 strings of coins is already too cheap. That's right. That's right. The 60 or 70 strings of coins you mentioned are just some of the inferior goods sold by the Hu merchants. The high-quality glazed cups they have can sell for 400 to 500 strings of coins each. But even their best glazed cups can't compare to the ones from Strange Taste Pavilion. Hey, shopkeeper's son, there's still 2 more cups that haven't been flipped open. Chapter 459. Yes, Mr. Sun, there are still 2 things that haven't been revealed yet. The attentive crowd noticed that the red cloth covering the 2 big guys at the entrance of the curious pavilion had not been removed yet. Thus, they began to make a ruckus. Don't be impatient. Now, I will reveal today's grand finale, the immortal mirror. Sita, take off the red cloth. Sun Huayuan's spirit shook as he said in a clear voice. Yes, Mr. Sun. The servant of the curious pavilion cupped his hands and walked towards the door. The crowd below heard Sun Huayuan's words, and all sorts of questions arose in their minds. What is this immortal mirror? Immortal mirror? Is the curious pavilion making mirrors now? No way. They have carriages and color glass. How can they have the energy to make mirrors? How many people do they have in the workshop? Who knows? Hey. Look. Oh my God. What is this? Is this a mirror? Holy sh**t. At this moment, the red cloth covering the 2 huge signboards at the entrance of the curious pavilion slowly fell down. 2 5-foot-tall colored glass mirrors made of red sandalwood were suddenly exposed to everyone's eyes. Everyone and everything in the open space in front of the curious pavilion could be seen clearly in the mirrors. Clear and bright. These are the most prominent characteristics of the colored glass mirrors compared to the traditional bronze mirrors. The images it produced were more realistic than the bronze mirrors. Shocking. The Tang Empire's citizens who had never seen a colored glass mirror before were only shocked. Perhaps only the gods were worthy of such a clear and realistic mirror. Right? This was the thought that surged in everyone's mind. Surprise. Now, those who had read yesterday's newspaper finally knew what kind of surprise the curious pavilion was going to give them. It was just that this surprise was simply too big. The people in front of the curious pavilion looked up at the 2 large colored glass mirrors and were speechless for a long time. Only the sound of people gasping could be heard. Mr. Sun, just say it. How much do these 2 mirrors cost? I will definitely buy them today. The crowd was silent for a moment. Then, Chao and Dong roared. He only took one look at the mirror, and he knew how valuable it was. No matter how much money he spent, it was worth it. Now, he didn't care much about the Azure Glaze Cup and the Azure Glaze Cup. What he wanted to buy the most was the immortal mirror. TSK. Mr. Chao, you're so generous. It seems like we're not fated to have such an immortal treasure. Yeah, this immortal mirror is definitely not cheap. Many people who knew their own limits knew that there was no hope when they heard Chao Wendong's words. They definitely did not have the financial resources to buy these 2 mirrors, so they could only watch the show quietly from the sidelines. These 2 immortal mirrors are made from 2 huge pieces of colored glass. Then, the most skilled craftsmen in our workshop polished them for half a month before they finally took shape. There were countless failures in the process. It can be said that behind these two immortal mirrors is the culmination of the painstaking efforts of everyone in the wonderful Taste Pavilion. It was not easy to come by. Sun Huaiyuan had also learned how to boast. In order to raise the price of the immortal mirror as a matter of course, he deliberately made the manufacturing process of the immortal mirror sound extremely complicated. However, no one doubted him because the craftsmanship of these two mirrors was indeed at the peak of this era. It was just that the onlookers did not have the patience to listen to old Sun's nonsense. They only wanted to know the price. Shopkeeper's son, we all know that this immortal mirror was not easy to come by. Just tell us the price. Haha, that's right. That's right. Shopkeeper's son, just tell us how much it is. Ha ha ha. Sun Huaiyuan did not feel embarrassed. After all, business was business. He smiled and cupped his hands, then said, "The price of this immortal mirror is 8,888 strings of coins. Due to the difficulty in manufacturing, the price is higher. Please understand." Buzz. 8,888 strings of coins. Hiss. As expected, this is not something we can afford. Gulp. Holy sh*t. This mirror is worth all of this old man's assets. The price of 8,888 strings of coins shocked everyone. That was more than 8,000 strings of coins, not 800 strings of coins. An ordinary person would probably not be able to accumulate so much wealth in their lifetime. Although the immortal mirror was good, not everyone could enjoy it. I'll buy it. I'll buy it. I'll take both of these immortal mirrors. Although 99% of the onlookers flinched when they heard the high price, there was still no shortage of rich people. An old man in a gray robe laughed loudly. Wait a minute. Shopkeeper's son, I'm the first one here today. Besides, I also have the supreme member card of your pavilion. No matter what, you should follow the order of first come, first served, right? I'll take both of these immortal mirrors. Chow Wendong quickly jumped out and said anxiously. Although 10,000 strings of coins was a lot, the Chow family could still afford it with their financial resources. Ha! You're right, Mr. Chow. The Curious Pavilion is also a place with rules. I'm sorry, brother. Then these two immortal mirrors will belong to Mr. Chow. I'll ask the staff to send it to your house. Sun Huaiyuan laughed. At this moment, he couldn't help but sigh. This money came too easily. Ha! Thank you for letting me win, everyone. I won't fight with you today. I'll go first. Now that Chow Wendong had the immortal mirror, he didn't care about anything else. Therefore, he cupped his hands and planned to follow the staff of the Curious Pavilion to move the immortal mirror into his house. As for the 10,000 strings of coins, he definitely didn't have it on him. They were all familiar with each other, so he would ask someone to send the money over later. Mr. Chow, please wait. Mr. Chow, please wait. The old man in a gray robe who was the first to bid walked over and stopped Chow Wendong. I'm Zheng Yinhong, and I really like this immortal mirror. I'm willing to pay 20,000 strings of coins. I wonder if Mr. Chow is willing to part with it? Hiss, 20,000 strings of coins? Mr. Chow can earn more than 2,000 strings of coins just by selling it. Who is this person? Why is he so rich? As soon as the old man in a gray robe finished speaking, there was an uproar. Chow Wendong's eyes flashed, and he hesitated. Zheng Yinhong? Are you Zheng Yinhong from Jiangnan Road's Misty Rain Villa? Zheng Yinhong stroked his beard and laughed. Ha! I didn't expect Mr. Chow to have heard of this old man's name. I'm honored. Ha! Brother Zheng, you must be joking. You must be joking. An unnatural look flashed across Chow Wendong's face. He hesitated for a moment, and then said, If Brother Zheng really wants this immortal mirror, I'll give it to you. The price will be the same as the original price. You can give the money directly to Manager's son. Ha! Brother Chow, you're so generous. I'll remember this favor. Chapter 460. Ladies and gentlemen, due to the size of the celestial mirror, the price will be more expensive. Our Strange Taste Pavilion has also considered the needs of many people, so we made some small celestial mirrors just like the one in my hand. Sun Huayan waved his hand, and a servant immediately brought over a small and exquisite mirror. The mirror was only the size of a palm, and its outer shell was made of peach wood. It looked quite delicate, but in Sun Huayuan's hands, there was an indescribable sense of strangeness. This celestial mirror is just smaller, but the effect is exactly the same as the celestial mirror, and the price is much cheaper. It only costs 100 strings of coins, and you can enjoy the effect of the celestial mirror with 8,888 strings of coins. Ladies and gentlemen, you can take turns to come up and take a look, and then decide if you want to buy it or not. Sun Huayan pointed at the small mirror in his hand and introduced it to everyone. He was trying to compare the price of this small mirror with the celestial mirror because he wanted to show that the celestial mirror was cheaper. 100 strings of coins? That's quite a good deal. And after the discount with the membership card, it's only a few dozen strings of coins. Husband, I really want that celestial mirror. Can you buy it for me? Ah, good. Since my wife likes it, I must buy it. Hee. Luckily, I came early today, or I would have to wait at the back of the line. My wife, you must reward your husband tonight. Yes. I will listen to you, husband. The glazed mirror's main target audience was women. A young couple was flaunting their love for each other at the side, showing off a wave of public display of affection. There are 50 celestial mirrors available today. Ladies and gentlemen, please hurry up if you want to buy them. All right, I have finished introducing the new products of Strange Taste Pavilion today. Thank you for listening to this old man's nagging for so long. Ladies and gentlemen, please line up if you want to buy a glass cup, a glass lamp, or a celestial mirror. Seeing that he had achieved his goal, Sun Huayuan cupped his hands and stepped aside. When the crowd heard that there were only 50 celestial mirrors, they could not help but feel nervous. Those who were still observing immediately made up their minds to buy it. If they did not buy it, their wives would probably make a fuss when they returned home. Men with multiple wives and concubines were having a hard time. They were worried about how many they should buy later. What, there were only 1 or 2 left when it was their turn. Outside Strange Taste Pavilion, the rich people were buying like crazy, while the poor people were standing outside looking at the Strange Taste Pavilion and chatting. It was very lively, except for one person. I was still wondering what surprise Xiao Xian was talking about. So it was a mirror. F***CK. Why is this thing a surprise to others but shock to me? Could it be that this prince's appearance is unsightly? Old Wu, you tell me. How do I look? Am I as handsome as Li Li? It was Li Tai, the little fatty. Today he rode a new carriage to see what kind of surprise the Strange Taste Pavilion was going to release today. After seeing that it was the immortal mirror, he immediately thought of the hidden meaning behind Li Zixuan's words yesterday. He angrily grabbed his personal guard Wu Chundao and said angrily, "Ugh, your highness is very talented, very knowledgeable, handsome, elegant, and elegant. In terms of talent and appearance, none of the men in Li County can compare to your highness." Ugh. Wu Chundao wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and hurriedly went against his will to flatter Li Tai. Li Tai was very pleased with himself as he listened, his little tail almost sticking up to the sky. Just as he was about to praise Wu Chundao's foresight, he suddenly heard the untimely sound of retching. The situation instantly became very stiff, and Li Tai's face also became as black as the bottom of a pot. What the hell is the meaning of this, Wu Chundao? Do you think that this prince's appearance disgusts you? Li Tai's cold voice pierced Wu Chundao's ears. The other guards could feel the cold, killing intent in his words, and they were so scared that they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Wu Chundao was the closest, so he was the first to bear the brunt. He felt like he was cold from head to toe. Your Highness, this subordinate definitely didn't mean that. This subordinate just ate some meat last night and caught a cold. Yes, I caught a cold. Wu Chundao was quick-witted, and in the moment of life and death, he finally came up with an excuse. Caught a cold? Li Tai stared at Wu Chundao as if he was looking at an idiot. He grinned coldly and said, "Since you've caught a cold, Why don't you run 30 laps around the mansion? You'll get better faster if you sweat. Also, you're only allowed to eat vegetables for 7 days. You're not allowed to eat meat. This prince is being considerate to his subordinates. To actually catch a cold on such a hot day, Li Tai really believed in Wu Chun Dao's evil. If it was in the past, with Li Tai's temperament, Wu Chun Dao would have at least received a beating. But he had been with Li Zixuan for a long time, so his hostility was much less than before. Thank you, Your Highness, for your consideration, Your Highness. Wu Chun Dao was stunned for a moment. Then, as if he had been pardoned, he quickly thanked him. Running 30 laps around the way Wang Fu, for a normal person, would probably kill him. But for a martial artist in the refinement realm like him, it would only make him pant a little. Li Tai's punishment really made him feel relieved. Go and buy a small divine mirror for this prince right now. Why the hell can't this prince look at himself in the mirror? First, he was teased by Li Zixuan, and now he was mocked by his own subordinates. Li Tai's heart was extremely sullen. He pointed at the strange taste pavilion and refused to believe it. Yes, Your Highness, but that shopkeeper's son said that there are only 50 small divine mirrors. This subordinate is afraid that I won't be able to line up. Wu Chun Dao held back his laughter and said awkwardly, Fuck, do you have a fucking pig brain? Can't you just go straight to shopkeeper's son? Why do you have to line up like an idiot? Cutting the line. Do you know how to cut the line? As their boss's proud eldest disciple, do I still need to line up? Li Tai angrily knocked on Wu Chun Dao's head and said angrily, Yes, Your Highness is wise. This subordinate will do it right away. Wu Chun Dao's face was sprayed with spittle, but he didn't dare to wipe it off. He could only hurriedly salute. Wait, does Your Highness have any other orders? Buy 2, 1 is not enough. Yes. Wu Chun Dao lowered his head and retreated, but his eyes were indescribably strange, as if he had seen a pervert. It's such a good thing. I should also buy 1 for Changle, lest that girl say that I'm biased. As for my mother, it's not appropriate to give this small immortal mirror. I'll ask Xiao Xian to send a big one to her. Hee. Who told you to call this prince ugly? I'm going to cheat you of a divine mirror. Ha! In the carriage, the little fatty was alone there and proudly fantasizing. Chapter 461. Your Majesty, His Highness the Crown Prince, is here. Li Zhenghao. Empress Zhongsun was reading on the couch when a little palace maid rushed in and reported. Oh, didn't Changxian just come to pay his respects? Why did he come back? Empress Zhongsun muttered to herself. Of course, no one would give her an answer. She shook her head and said, Let the crown prince in. Yes, Your Majesty. A moment later, Li Changxian walked in excitedly. Your son greets mother. Is Changxian looking for mother for something? Empress Zhongsun pointed to the bench next to her and motioned for Li Changxian to sit down. At the same time, she asked with a smile, Your son is here to deliver a treasure to mother. Li Changxian didn't sit down. Instead, he said mysteriously, Oh, what treasure actually made Changxian personally deliver it? It's really rare for my son to be so filial. Empress Zhongsun's curiosity was indeed aroused. She blinked and asked, Mother will know when she sees it. Li Changxian bowed and said with a smile. Then he shouted outside the hall, Bring it in. 2 eunuchs carried a huge signboard covered with a red cloth and walked in carefully. Under Li Changxian's command, the 2 placed the big guy on the lower left of Empress Zhongsun and then retreated. The doubt in Empress Zhongsun's eyes grew stronger. She got up and walked down, asking, Changxian, what is this? Mother, please take a look. After Li Changxian said that, he personally tore open the red cloth. A huge glass mirror suddenly appeared in front of Empress Zhongsun. Looking at the extremely clear and real other self in the mirror, Zhongsun was stunned and speechless for a long time. This is a mirror? After a long time, Empress Zhongsun murmured in disbelief. Mother, this is indeed a mirror, but it has another name, the immortal mirror. What Li Changxian sent over today was the immortal mirror. However, this thing wasn't his. Even if he had more than 8,000 strings of cash, he couldn't buy it outside. This immortal mirror was sent to the East Palace by Li Zixuan. Li Zixuan wanted to borrow his hand to give the immortal mirror to Empress Zhongsun. Immortal mirror? To be able to illuminate people so clearly, it is indeed not an object of the mortal world. This immortal mirror is worthy of its name. Empress Zhongsun muttered to herself, and then smiled at Li Chengxian. This immortal mirror should be from Xiaoshuan's workshop, right? Li Chengxian was stunned. He did not expect that even this could be seen through by his eldest grandson. He said rather awkwardly, "Royal Mother is wise. This immortal mirror is indeed from the workshop of the strange interest pavilion. Little Xian just sent someone to deliver it to the Eastern Palace. Ahem, I'm just presenting it to Buddha with borrowed flowers." "Ha, you two kids." Empress Zhongsun smiled, and then looked at the immortal mirror. She couldn't help but sigh. This immortal mirror is a rare treasure in the world. Imperial Mother likes it very much. It's just that Imperial Mother is getting old. I'm afraid that Imperial Mother won't dare to use it in a few years. Li Chengxian hurriedly waved his hand and said, "What is Imperial Mother saying? You are in the prime of your life. How are you old?" In terms of appearance, 99% of the women in the Tang Empire are not as good as Imperial Mother. In terms of temperament, Imperial Mother is gentle and dignified. No one in the world can compare. Therefore, this immortal mirror will definitely accompany Imperial Mother for at least 80 to 90 years. In fact, Zhongsun was only 26 or 27 years old now. She married Li Er when she was 13 years old. So although she was only in her 20s now, she was already the mother of several children. That peerless appearance, coupled with her dignified and elegant temperament, really did not show any trace of the passage of time on her. If it were not for the fact that she was the mother of a country and had too many things to worry about, she would probably look even younger. Empress Zhongsun could not help but laugh. According to what you said, Chengxian, wouldn't Imperial Mother become an old witch? Huh, if Maid Guanyin is an old witch, then wouldn't I become an old monster? Huh, interesting, interesting. At this moment, a burly figure walked in from outside the hall. It was Li Er. Old Li did not see Li Chengxian present and directly displayed a wave of affection without restraint. Li Chengxian innocently ate a bowl of dog food. "Your Majesty." "Greetings, Imperial Father." The mother and son in the hall quickly turned around and bowed. Li Er waved his hand and asked with a smile, "Empress, what were you talking about just now?" What is this? Why didn't I see it here before? Where did it come from?" It was Li Er who inadvertently glanced at the huge object, the celestial mirror, and could not help but change his words. "Your Majesty, please come in and take a look." Zhongsun smiled and pulled Li Er in front of the celestial mirror. Li Er immediately discovered the use of this thing. His eyes widened, and he pointed at the celestial mirror and said in surprise, This is a mirror?" "Yes, Your Majesty, this is called the celestial mirror. Chengxian just sent it over." "Celestial mirror? Good. What a good celestial mirror. It's just right for a fairy-like person like Maid Guanyin. Ha ha." Li Er said with a thick face as he laughed loudly. Zhongsun blushed and was about to explain when the little palace maid ran in again and said, Your Majesty, Prince Wei is outside the hall and asking for an audience. Qin Ke is here too. This child did not come to greet me early in the morning. Why is she here now?" Zhongsun muttered to herself hesitantly. "Let him in." Li Er waved his hand and then looked at the mirror in front of him seriously. "Yes." After a while, Li Tai walked in leisurely. Seeing that there were so many people in the hall, he could not help but be stunned for a moment. Then, he went forward and bowed to Li Er and Zhongsun, saying, "Your son greets Imperial Father and Imperial Mother." Then, he cupped his hands at Li Chengxian. "Greetings, big brother." "Huh, where did Qin Ke go to play this morning?" "Chengxian and Changle have both come to Imperial Mother's place. You're the only one left." Zhongsun waved her hand and let Li Tai get up. She smiled and joked at the same time. "Ah." Li Tai scratched his head awkwardly. He could not say that he had run out early in the morning to watch the fun, right? Just as his eyes were rolling around, he suddenly saw the divine, immortal mirror beside him. He was stunned and even forgot to answer Zhang Xuan's question. He said dumbfoundedly, This is the divine, immortal mirror? Imperial Mother, why do you have the divine, immortal mirror here? Qingke, you actually know about the divine, immortal mirror? Zhang Sun was also shocked and asked, your son passed by the East Market this morning and heard someone say, cough, cough, I heard someone say. Li Tai stammered, oh, I see. Hey, Imperial Mother, this divine, immortal mirror has become the talk of the town today. Do you know how much this mirror is sold for at the Curious Pavilion? Li Er frowned at this time and said impatiently, stop showing off there. Tell me quickly. Replying to Imperial Father, they sell this divine, immortal mirror for 8,888 strings of cash. Li Tai hurriedly said. Li Er stared and said, how much? 8,888 strings of cash. This kid is really black-hearted. Chapter 462. This kid is really black-hearted. This was Li Er's subconscious evaluation of Li Zixuan after hearing the price of the immortal mirror. In his opinion, although the immortal mirror had an obvious advantage over the bronze mirror, the price of 8,888 was a bit excessive. 8,888? Qingke, is there anyone who wants to buy it at such a high price? Emperor Zhang's son didn't comment and just asked with a smile. Of course, there are people who want to buy it at a higher price. I heard from shopkeeper's son of the Curious Pavilion that there are only 2 immortal mirrors of this size today. I didn't expect Xiao Xian to give one to Mother. This kid is quite generous. The quick-witted little fatty guessed the origin of the immortal mirror after thinking for a while. He couldn't help but feel gratified. Then this kid will probably earn a lot today, right? I heard that the Curious Pavilion is going to sell a batch of colored glass cups and lamps today. Based on his character, the price will definitely not be cheap. Li Er pinched his chin and said softly, isn't that just enough to alleviate that child's urgent needs? I just don't know if Xiao Xian can make up for all the money he needs to build a college. Emperor Zhang's son was worried about Li Zixuan. That's hard to say. No one knows how much money that kid has. Father, as far as I know, Xiao Xian's family could take out 150,000 strings of cash now, but he needs at least 500,000 strings of cash to build Yanhuang College. He's still thinking of ways to raise the remaining 350,000 strings of cash. Today's big move by the Curious Pavilion is probably one of his measures to raise money. When Li Tai heard this, he jumped out and exposed Li Zixuan's past. So much? This was the first time Li Chengxian heard that Li Zixuan was short of money. He frowned, then cupped his hands at Li Er and said, Father, I think that even if the Curious Pavilion launches so many things today, they won't be able to raise 350,000 strings of cash in a short time. Yanhuang College is beneficial to our Tang Empire, and its construction can't be delayed. I implore Father to give Xiao Xian some support. Li Er raised his eyebrows and waved his hand. Chengxian, as the heir to the throne, how can you act so emotionally? Not to mention that the Chong and local government has no extra money. Even if the national treasury is full, do you think I can use my imperial power to seek personal gains and allocate money to Li Zixuan? The way to be a ruler is to maintain balance. The emergence of Yanhuang College already has the tendency to break the current balance. If I were to openly give him money, it would inevitably cause dissatisfaction. Then I wouldn't be helping him. I would be harming him. Do you understand? Li Chengxian suddenly understood that there were so many twists and turns in such a simple matter. He hurriedly bowed and accepted the lesson. I understand. I will remember Imperial Father's teachings. Li Tai's eyes flashed, and he nodded imperceptibly. Also, how do you know that this kid doesn't have any tricks up his sleeve? I think the only person in this world who won't be troubled by money is Li Zixuan. Li Er smiled mysteriously and said with certainty. As the old fox at the top of the food chain in the empire, Li Er's guess was not wrong. Li Zixuan certainly had tricks up his sleeve. Using color glass to make money was just a natural move. Even without the matter of the Academy, he would have launched these colored glass products. His most important trump card was cement. The cost of cement was dozens of times cheaper than glutinous rice mortar. Therefore, even if the Curious Pavilion could not raise 35 strings of cash, he was not worried at all. He was listening to Sun Huayuan's report on the latest sales of the Curious Pavilion and was secretly delighted. 78,200 strings of cash? Huh. If that's the case, our Curious Pavilion sales today is likely to exceed 100,000 strings of cash, Lisa Xuan said happily after listening to Sun Huayuan's report. It was noon, so 100,000 strings of cash was estimated to be very conservative. 100,000 strings of cash in a day. What kind of concept was that? That was 80 million copper coins. In the future, he could brag to others and say, "If you have something to say it quickly. Don't waste my time. I'm a man who can earn tens of thousands of copper coins in minutes. Can you afford to waste my time?" Hee. It was quite satisfying to think about it. It's very possible. At this rate, it's very likely that the goods we prepare today will be sold out. Young Master, the colored glass cup, and the immortal mirror are really too profitable. I think that our workshop can stop all other work and focus on producing these 3 items. In this way, in less than a year, you will become the richest man in the Tang Empire. Sun Huayuan was shocked by the huge profits of the colored glass products today. At this moment, he excitedly expressed his thoughts to Lisa Xuan. In his opinion, compared to the immortal mirror, the colored glass cup, and the colored glass cup, the other products of the workshop were all rubbish. It was better to abandon them and focus on producing these 3 products. Lisa Xuan shook his head and said, "That won't do. Shopkeeper's son, don't think that these 3 items are expensive now. In the future, when we sell more of them, the price of the immortal mirror, the colored glass cup, and the colored glass cup will drop rapidly. After all, these items are considered luxury goods to the people of the Tang Empire. The reason why luxury goods are expensive is because they are rare. As the saying goes, the rarer something is, the more expensive it is. When we sell more of them, they won't be as rare as before. Therefore, today's grand occasion will be very rare in the future." The other projects of the workshop must not be stopped. Technology is the foundation of our strange taste pavilion. Lisa Xuan was originally an engineer. He knew the importance of technological innovation to the long-term development of company. If he lost the motivation to innovate for the sake of immediate profits, the company would not be far from death. The current industrial technology of the Strange Taste Pavilion was far ahead of this era. He could not give up at this time. Sun Huayuan heard this and thought seriously. Then he clasped his hands and said, "Young Master has great foresight and great foresight. This son admires you. It seems that this old man was too focused. I'm not as calm as young Master. I'm ashamed. Ha! Shopkeeper's son, you're too humble. Actually, you've already done very well. With the Strange Taste Pavilion in your hands, I'm completely at ease." Speaking logically, Sun Huayuan's ability in business was not bad. Lisa Xuan had always thought highly of him. Sun Huayuan was flattered and said, "Many thanks for young Master's trust. Ha! Shopkeeper's son, you should go eat. I should also go back now." Lisa Xuan happily waved his hand and left. With such a large sum of money coming into his account, he did not need to worry about money for a while. The next step was to see if Faubert's side would be able to support him. Wang Zhong's side had already recruited more than 5,000 craftsmen and laborers. In 2 days, they would have to start work. When the time came, they would have to use glutinous rice mortar. At worst, they would have to wait until the research on cement was done. After all, there were more than 10,000 workers. Chapter 463. The Azure Glass Cup, Azure Glass Lamp, and Immortal Mirror caused a huge sensation in Chang and City. The Odd Taste Pavilion once again refreshed people's understanding of it. Scooters, plows, compasses, don't touch me, and now this clear and pure azure glass. It seemed that there was nothing the Odd Taste Pavilion couldn't make, especially the Immortal Mirror, which was 100 times clearer and more realistic than the bronze mirror. It was a real killer of women, and no woman could resist such a thing. In less than 2 hours, the news of the immortal mirror of the Odd Taste Pavilion had spread throughout the streets of Chang and City. Even some states and counties near Chang and City could hear some news. Ordinary people heard the news and wanted to go to the Odd Taste Pavilion to see rare things. The young masters and young ladies of the rich families brought a group of servants and waved their money bags, ready to buy a mortal mirror. As a result, more and more people came to the Odd Taste Pavilion, and it was full of people. If it weren't for a large number of marquises maintaining order, there might have been another riot. What? No more? I rushed over as soon as I heard the news. How can there be no more? In a private room of a restaurant next to the Odd Taste Pavilion, a sweet-sounding woman's angry words came out. "Miss, there's really no more." Their waiter said that there were only 50 small immortal mirrors today, and they were sold out an hour ago. There were also 2 big immortal mirrors, and they were bought by Master Chow of Chongren Lane as soon as the show started. In the private room, an honest-looking servant in green explained in a low voice to the beautiful and petite girl in a pink dress. "Bang! Oomph! Trash! You can't even buy a mirror. What's the use of spending money on you?" The girl threw the vase on the table to the ground and roared at the servant. "Miss, the Odd Taste Pavilion sells too few immortal mirrors." The servant in green felt wronged. "Shut up. Trash will always be trash." "Ahem. Menger, if you can't buy it today, you can buy it another day. It's just a mirror." At this time, a young master waved his fan and stood up to smooth things over. "Oomph. Xiao Shui, you shut up for this lady as well. If you didn't come to my house early in the morning to pester me, I wouldn't be late. Woo, I heard that Sister Nanshio and the others have bought immortal mirrors. Now I'm going to die from embarrassment." The girl was quite unruly and didn't give the young master any face. She was unruly for a while. She actually cried. This little girl's face was really like the weather in June, changing as and when she wanted. The young master named Xiao Shui also felt immense pressure. It was clear that he had been wary of the girl in front of him for a long time. He waved his hand and had the servants and maids around him leave first. Then he crouched down and said gently, Mengs. "Menger, don't worry. Today I will send someone to stay in this restaurant. Tomorrow morning at dawn, he will go to the strange interest pavilion to line up. I'm sure no one will be earlier than him. At that time, he will definitely be able to help you buy the immortal mirror." "Woo, what if I can't buy?" Meng's glass girl, she cried, "Glass fairy. How is that possible? The East Market only opens at noon every day. If I send someone to live across the street, he will definitely be early. Moreover, I have a red membership card for Immortal Mirror. I'm not afraid of others cutting the line." Xiao Shui widened his eyes in disbelief. "Woo, I don't care. Xiao Shui, if you don't help me buy the Immortal Mirror, I will never agree to our marriage. We'll get married when you're able to buy it." Meng raised her head, wiped the tears from her face, and said to Xiao Shui, No, Meng, didn't we agree to get married at the beginning of next month?" Xiao Shui was dumbfounded. Why did he feel like he had heard this before? Meng had said the same thing to him when the new carriage Don't Touch Me came out. It had only been a few days. Not again. At this moment, Xiao Shui felt that he was being targeted by Immortal Mirror. Immortal Mirror had specially come up with some wedding set meals. If this continued, he felt that his marriage would be ruined by Immortal Mirror sooner or later. "Oomph. What's wrong? You said that you like me. You won't agree to such a small request? Then I'd better marry Li Zixuan. Look at how good he is to his wife." The little girl put her hands on her hips and said without thinking. Xiao Shui's face turned green when he heard that. He quickly vomited blood and said, "Menger, don't say such things again. I will definitely find a way to buy this Immortal Mirror for you. If it doesn't work, I will ask my grandpa for help. Then will Grandpa Xiao think that I'm not ladylike?" The little girl was delighted, but she hesitated after thinking about it. Cough. "No, of course not. Menger, don't worry. I will talk to Grandpa. Grandpa will definitely not be dissatisfied with you." Xiao Shui quickly waved his hand and patted his chest as he promised. Meng smiled sweetly and said, "Hee hee, Brother Shui is so nice." When Xiao Shui heard that, he couldn't feel happy. His heart was bitter, but he didn't say it out loud. He secretly hated Li Zishuan to death. The previous grand wedding left a deep impression in the hearts of all the girls in Chang'an City. The groom who was going to get married later naturally had bad luck because the girls' requirements were increasing. As the groom, he had to find ways to satisfy the girls' requirements. Just like the new carriage that Li Zishuan used to escort the bride, it had gradually become a must-have item for marriage for many girls. Now, this glass mirror was probably going to become one of the must-have wedding packages. Xiao Shui didn't think much of these products. The Xiao family didn't lack a few thousand strings of coins. However, these things from a mortal mirror were often in short supply. Even if you had money, you might not be able to buy them. This really made Xiao Shui hate it so much that his teeth itched. If he hadn't asked the servant to stay at the East Market in one day in advance and line up in advance the next day, he probably wouldn't have been able to buy the new carriage until now. Xiao Shui wasn't the only one in a similar situation. Once the immortal mirror, a product that was extremely popular with women, was launched, Li Zishuan immediately became the public enemy of all men in Chang'an City. Many girls who were about to get married had vaguely expressed their yearning for the immortal mirror to their lovers. Of course, this way of expression was tactful and implicit, and some were straightforward like Meng. Anyway, in any case from today on, there would be one more marriage package in Chang'an City, the immortal mirror. Chapter 464. Achoo! 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 After waking up from his afternoon nap, Li Zishuan inexplicably sneezed a few times. Han Yushi, who was at the side, quickly came over and grabbed his arm. She asked worriedly, "Husband, did you catch a cold? How is that possible?" Li Zishuan shook his head. He was a guru expert. How could he catch a cold so easily? How could I catch a cold on such a hot day? Someone must be scolding me. Achoo! Husband, you're talking nonsense. Why would someone scold you when you're fine? Also, who said that you won't get sick when it's hot? You might even catch a cold. I'll get someone to find a doctor to help you take a look. Han Yushi gently pinched Li Zishuan's arm and said angrily, "Huh, no need, no need. Wife, have you forgotten that I'm also considered half a doctor? I'm definitely fine. By the way, aren't you still going to Mother's place in the afternoon? Oh, I almost forgot. Mother must be waiting anxiously, right?" Han Yushi exclaimed when she heard that. However, she was still a little worried and said, "Husband, are you really fine?" "Huh, I'm really fine. Wife, hurry up and go." Li Zishuan rubbed his nose and waved his hand. "Okay, then I'll go." In the afternoon, Li Zishuan went to the workshop to check on the progress of the cement research. "Young master, the hardness of the cement we've made so far hasn't reached your previous requirements after solidification. If it's used for construction, it's really not as strong as glutinous rice mortar." Faubert knew the purpose of Li Zishuan's visit today. He directly came over with a lump of cement and said. Li Zishuan took the cement and gently pinched it with his fingers. It instantly turned into powder. The quality was not good. "Faubert, there must be a problem with this formula. Tell the craftsman to continue experimenting with new raw material ratios. Real cement will definitely be dozens of times better than glutinous rice mortar." Although he was a little disappointed, Li Zishuan still encouraged Faubert to lead people to overcome this technical difficulty because the use of cement was really great. If they gritted their teeth and researched it, they would benefit endlessly in the future. "Yes, young master." Faubert felt ashamed in his heart. He cupped his hands and sighed. But this old man heard that young master has recruited thousands of craftsmen and that the construction of Yanhuang College is imminent. This old man is really anxious. Li Zishuan smiled and comforted him. "Faubert, don't worry. The academy can use the glutinous rice mortar first. It's not a problem. This time, Lily has earned me a lot of money, so tell the people below to not worry. Sometimes, the more anxious you are, the less inspiration you have." Li Zishuan was, of course, anxious in his heart. However, he also majored in engineering in his previous life. Naturally, he knew that in scientific research, when faced with difficulties, the more anxious you are, the more difficult it is to solve the problem. On the contrary, in some inadvertent moments, you can come up with some particularly good ideas. Fortunately, Lisa Schwann had prepared for both sides from the very beginning. Whether the cement was made earlier or later, it would not have a big impact on the result. Thank you, young master, for your understanding. The workshop will definitely do our best to research the cement as soon as possible. Faubert heaved a sigh of relief and cupped his hands in respect. Lisa Schwann nodded and said, "Okay, Faubert, tell the craftsmen in the workshop to prepare. In 2 days, the academy will officially start construction. Time waits for no one." So fast. Faubert was shocked. Although he knew that the academy would start construction soon, he did not expect it to be so fast. Yes, according to Butler Wang's calculations, we should be able to recruit all the craftsmen and laborers in 2 days. The earlier we start construction, the earlier I feel at ease. The reason why Lisa Schwann offered such a high salary to the craftsmen and laborers was so that he could recruit all the craftsmen in a short period of time and start construction as soon as possible. Now, it seemed that the effect was quite good. Money makes the world go round. This sentence was not without reason. Okay, then I will help you keep an eye on things. Although my old arms and legs can't carry things, I can still be the supervisor for you. Huh, you can't do that. Faubert, you are now the treasure of our workshop. The weather outside is so hot, I don't want anything bad to happen to you. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. In the past 2 days, the storm of the immortal mirror had become more and more intense in Chang and city. Those who had bought the immortal mirror before naturally showed off to their friends in various ways. The clarity and magic of the immortal mirror spread like wildfire. More and more people knew about the immortal mirror, and more people wanted to buy it. However, what drove everyone crazy was that the immortal mirror did not appear in the curious pavilion in these 2 days. It was as if this thing had never existed in the world. Sun Huayuan's explanation was that it was not easy to make the immortal mirror. The workshop was stocking up and would provide a batch of goods to the curious pavilion every 3 days. However, this was just nonsense to deceive the consumers. The real reason was that Lisa Schwann had asked him to do so. At the end of the day, Lisa Schwann just didn't want these glass products to depreciate so quickly. He wanted to make more money with this stuff. He would never kill the goose that lays the golden eggs and saturate the market all of a sudden, casting a long line to catch a big fish. This was a wealth robbery or wealth redistribution plan that used sand as a weapon. Lisa Schwann had to look into the future and not just focus on the small profits in front of him. However, this made the pitiful people who were obsessed with buying the immortal mirror suffer. Xiao Shui was the most prominent one among them. The lackey he sent had already stayed in the guest house in the East Market for 2 nights, but he still did not get anything. As for that Miss Meng, she had almost driven him crazy these 2 days. Lisa Schwann did not care how the others complained. He would not change the plan he had made. Those people just had to wait for 1 more day. Early in the morning, Lisa Schwann, Yin Xiaoning, Yin Lied, and Faubert led more than 200 craftsmen from the Ministry of Works and more than 100 craftsmen from the workshop to Plum Village. Li Tai, the little fatty, also came along today. He had been thinking about Yinhuang College ever since he saw the Yinhuang College sand table a few days ago. Today was the big day of Yinhuang College's groundbreaking. How could he not come and join in the fun? Tisk tisk. Little Xian, there are so many craftsmen. The construction team used by Yinhuang College is almost comparable to the construction team used to build the palace. Li Tai and Lisa Schwann walked side by side at the front. The little fatty looked at the huge team behind them and could not help but say this. Huh. Lisa Schwann did not continue the conversation and directly joked. Chinke, I heard that you bought 2 small immortal mirrors from shopkeeper's son 2 days ago. If the girls in Chang and city knew that you got in through the back door, they would hate you to death. Huh. Li Tai. Chapter 465. Huh. Young master, the 500 villagers of Plum Village have been waiting for you to come. When the group entered Plum Village, they saw Second Master Lu and his brother, Lu Qingfeng, already waiting at the entrance of the village with a group of people beside them. It was Han Lijing and a young man from the Han family manor. The young master of the main family wanted to build a house. To these villagers, building a school and building a house were the same thing. Even if they had no money, they had to come over and help. Disregarding everything else, just the rent reduction policy that Li Zishuan had set up for them was worth it for them to help Li Zishuan build a house for free. Now, the surrounding villages were envious of the preferential treatment that the two villages received. Many of the villagers were wondering how they could move closer to the Han family manor or Plum Village. It was easier for those who had daughters. They could just marry their daughters over. Those who didn't have daughters were worried sick. Could they let their sons marry into their families? Ha! Second Master Lu, you're getting more and more energetic. Li Zishuan jumped off his horse and walked toward Lu Wanshan with a smile. He wasn't just being polite. A few months ago, Second Master Lu's body was strong, but one could see the vicissitudes of a hero in his twilight years. Now, Second Master Lu's vicissitudes of life had all been washed away. In its place was a vigorous vitality, and he looked a little like an old man. Haha, this is all thanks to you, young master. In the past, when Lu Shuren was running rampant in the village, I had to fight him to the death every day. Now that the father and son are gone, I don't have to fight anyone anymore. Every day, I can wander around the village or go fishing by the river. There's nothing to worry about. Naturally, the more I live, the more energetic I get, haha. Second Master Lu laughed heartily with his shirt unbuttoned. Xiaoxian, every family in the Han and Mei villages now has ample food and clothing. This is all thanks to you, Xiaoxian. Han Lijing stroked his beard and smiled. Li Zishuan was now his son-in-law. Of course, he didn't have to call him young master anymore. Haha, Han Tianhu, you're so lucky to have found such a good home for little Han. Second Master Lu pointed at Han Lijing and joked. Haha, this is all that girl's good fortune. Li Zishuan saw that they were getting more and more excited as they chatted. More importantly, the sun was about to rise to the top of their heads. He quickly interrupted. Ahem, father-in-law, Second Master Lu Lijing. Are all the craftsmen and commoners here? As the village chief of Plum Village, Lu Qingfeng had to bear the responsibility of supervising this matter. Hearing this, he hurriedly stepped forward and said, replying to young master, Housekeeper Wang has already brought over 13,000 people from other places to Cloud Mountain. The youths from the Han family manor and Plum Village have also arrived. Young Master's Academy is related to the long-term development of our two villages. Everyone has volunteered to help young Master build the academy for free. What a group of down-to-earth working people. Although Li Zishuan was touched, he wouldn't let his villagers suffer for no reason. He smiled and said, don't worry. He smiled and said, working for free won't do. I appreciate the villagers' good intentions, but don't mention this kind of problem again in the future. Li Zishuan, won't shortchange everyone's wages. Besides, why should outsiders get paid while our own people have to work for free? No matter where you go, there's no such logic, right? Yen lied, who was behind him, stroked his beard in relief when he heard this. He was even more impressed with Li Zishuan in his heart. When the farmers of the two villages heard this, their faces revealed touched and regretful expressions. Young master is so kind to us. If the men of Plum Village dare to cheat or not work properly in the future, don't blame me, Lu Wanshan, for being rude to them if I catch them. Second Master Lu knew that Li Zishuan wasn't just being polite, so he pulled Lu Lijing's arm to stop his elder brother from persuading him. He then turned his head and shouted at the villagers of Plum Village behind him. Second Master Lu is right. I, Mei Zhongkong, support you. Young master is so good to us. Who dares to not work hard? I like to see where his conscience is. Do your best. Do your best. The young men of Plum Village immediately let out loud roars. Men of the Han Village, did you hear that? If you can't win against the brothers of Plum Village, then let's see if you still have the face to return to the Han Village. Han Lijing didn't want to be outdone and shouted at the young men of the Han Village. He didn't have a right to care about the attitude of the other villagers, but he had to care about the people of the Han village. Putting aside the fact that Li Zishuan was his son-in-law, the villagers of the Han village were also the ones who had received the most kindness from the Li family. If they didn't repay the kindness, this wasn't something that the villagers should do. Han Lijing, there's nothing to say. The men of the Han village won't be worse than those of Plum village. We will also do our best. Old Hu laughed out loud and agreed. Yes, do your best. Do your best. Li Tai, Yin shouting, and the others were shocked when they saw this. Li Zishuan was a little speechless. It was just a ceremony for the opening of the academy. Why did they make it seem like an army was going to war? He waved his hand and comforted everyone with a few words. Then, he led the large group up Cloud Mountain. Plum Village was surrounded by mountains on two sides, water on one side, and Cloud Mountain on the north. It occupied a large area, and the terrain on the mountain was relatively flat. In the early years, there were people who planted crops on the mountain, but because of the poor harvest, they eventually gave up. In the east, there was Foamlin Mountain. The forest was dense, and the terrain was rugged. Some animals often appeared, so it was a good place for the villagers to hunt. In the south, there was Ba River. The irrigation of the Han village and Plum village's farmland depended on this Ba River. Following the mountain path, the group headed up the mountain. Halfway up the mountain, Li Zishuan could hear the hubbub of voices. He guessed that Wang Zhong was leading the group of people to clean up the mountain path. When they arrived at the top of the mountain, they saw a large group of people doing the preliminary cleaning. At this moment, Wang Zhong wished that he had 4 legs. He needed to command everywhere, and it was very difficult for him. Li Zishuan frowned. Although more people could speed up the progress of the project, more people would make it more difficult for the foreman to command. If he could not reasonably assign an appropriate task to everyone, then these 10,000 people would be nothing more than a motley crew. It would only have the opposite effect. Thinking of this, he called Wang Zhong over and said, "Uncle Wang, get everyone to gather here." Wang Zhong wiped the sweat off his forehead and cupped his hands. "Yes, young master." After a full 15 minutes, all the people had gathered. What was worse was that although these people came to gather, they did not have time to idle their mouths. They were still chatting in groups of 3 to 5. The whole place was noisy. Many of these people came from the same village. Everyone had their own circle, so it was not surprising that they knew each other. If there were only 100 or 200 people here, perhaps no one would dare to talk to each other. However, there were more than 10,000 people here, so the situation was not so easy to control. Seeing this, Li Zishuan could not help but frown even more. Chapter 466. On the Cloud Mountain. Yin Lide stroked his beard and looked at Li Zishuan thoughtfully. He was curious as to how Li Zishuan would handle the situation. As the Minister of Works, he had presided over the construction of the Zhao Mausoleum and several other palaces. He had encountered situations even bigger than this. If he were to take charge, he would definitely be able to solve the problem at hand. However, Li Zishuan was different. This lad had no experience in leading an army into battle, nor did he have experience in leading tens of thousands of people to participate in a major project. Therefore, Yin Lide was very curious as to whether Li Zishuan would give him a surprise. Wang Zhong was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. He had also seen Li Zishuan's face, which was as dark as the bottom of a pot. However, faced with more than 10,000 people, there was nothing he could do. He could only command a few of his servants to maintain order around him while feeling anxious. At this moment, a cold snort resounded through the peak of the Cloud Mountain. Everyone felt as if their hearts had been hammered by a metal hammer. Hundreds of birds in the forest were so frightened that they started chirping and flapping their wings together to fly into the distance. The noisy crowd immediately quieted down. The Cloud Mountain was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. The power of a grandmaster was terrifying. Faced with this disorderly mob, Li Zishuan didn't rack his brains to think of other ways. When a person's strength reached a certain level, they didn't like to think of ingenious schemes. Using brute force to defeat 10 was the best way for them to deal with things. Is there anyone among you who is dissatisfied with the salary I'm offering? Lisa Schwan looked at the commoners and craftsmen below and asked loudly. In this era, there were no loudspeakers, but Lisa Schwan's voice could still be heard very far. More than 10,000 people in the field could hear him. Hearing this, the crowd looked at each other, but no one dared to make sound. First, it was because Lisa Schwan's cold snort had frightened them. They were just commoners, and grandmasters were very far away from them. However, they could feel that this young man in his teens was very powerful and very powerful. As for the other reason, it was that Lisa Schwan's salary was indeed impeccable. All right, since no one said anything, I'll take it that all of you are satisfied with this salary. Lisa Schwan waited for a few breaths of time. Seeing that no one answered, he continued in a clear voice. Next, it's my turn to make some requests of you. First, let me introduce myself. I am Lisa Schwan, the person who hired you this time. I don't care which village you're from. Since you're here and want to earn money, you have to listen to me. If anyone wants to fish in troubled waters or try to cheat money by eating and drinking, then I'll ask you to leave. At this moment, everyone below felt a chill in their hearts. Only now did they realize that coming here did not mean that they had 2 months of high-salary iron rice bowls. If they did not do a good job, they would still be chased out at any time. This is the current Minister of Works. The academy that you will help me build in the next 2 months was approved by the current emperor. From now on, all of you will have to obey the arrangements of Minister Yin, the eldest son of Minister Yin Xiaoning. Whatever he asks you to do, you must do it. If you don't want to obey the arrangements, please leave now, lest you be chased out by me in the future and be laughed at by others. Lisa Schwan mentioned Yin lied and Li Air in order to give these people another deterrent. Since ancient times, people were afraid of officials, not to mention that the Yin Huang College was a task personally assigned by the current emperor. These people would definitely not dare to be sloppy when they were building in the future. He was right. As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes were instantly filled with awe. There was no longer any laziness like before. After a few breaths, no one took the initiative to leave. Lisa Schwan continued. In the next 2 months, I will randomly divide you into 50 construction teams. On average, each team will consist of 300 people, 10 craftsmen, and 1 captain and 1 deputy captain. There will be groups of 10 people in each team and 1 leader. There will be groups of 10 people in each team and 1 deputy captain. Outside the group, there will be groups of 10. Outside the group, there will be groups of 10. Outside the group, there will be groups of 10. Each group will have 1 captain and 1 deputy captain. Everyone must obey the command of Yin Xiaoning. Yin Xiaoning will distribute the tasks of each construction team to the corresponding team leader. As the team leader, you must distribute the tasks well and ensure that the tasks are completed in time. When each squad leader receives a mission, you have to divide the mission into smaller groups. You have to cooperate well with each other because you are not alone. You are a group. Don't let your sloppiness affect the entire group or even the entire squad's failure to complete the mission in time. In addition, Yin Xiaoning will form an additional law enforcement team. They will evaluate the work progress of each construction team every day. The team with the best performance that day will have the best meal the next day. You will eat the fattest meat, and there will be enough of it. Of course, the team with the worst performance will also have the worst meal the next day. You will only be left with carrots and vegetables. Every 5 days, the law enforcement team will make a small summary. The team leader and deputy captain will be rewarded with 2 strings of coins. The captain and deputy captain will be rewarded with 1 string of coins. The team leader will be rewarded with 500 coins. The rest will be rewarded with 100 coins. Every month, the law enforcement team will make a big summary. The team with the best performance will have their monthly salary doubled. The team leader and deputy captain will have their monthly salary reduced by half. The captain and deputy captain will have their monthly salary reduced by 40%. The team leader will have his monthly salary reduced by 30%. The rest will have their monthly salary reduced by 20%. Moreover, the law enforcement team will also evaluate the 5 teams with the best performance that month. The members of these 5 teams will be rewarded with an additional 5 strings of coins. Of course, once the law enforcement team finds a worker with a negative attitude, he must be kicked out immediately. So, you're not alone. What you do will affect your team. If you want to make a lot of money from me, you have to put in the effort. Do you all understand? Huff, huff, huff. After Li Zixuan finished speaking, the sound of heavy breathing could be heard in the audience. Everyone was excited by the generous rewards. 5 strings of coins. This was a huge sum of money that a civilian family might not be able to earn even if they worked hard for 5 years. But now it was within their reach. How could they not be excited and excited? Although they would be punished if they did not do well, none of these farmers would feel that their work was not as good as others. Therefore, they selectively ignored Li Zixuan's punishment measures. At this time, when they heard Li Zixuan's question, they quickly shouted, "Understood." Although their voices were not in sync, they were very loud and imposing. Li Zixuan nodded in satisfaction and then said, "These 2 months, you will be staying in Union residence. For the next 2 months, all of you will be living and eating in Cloud Mountain. Later on, Yin Xiaoning will specially organize a group to build temporary houses for everyone. Please think about your wives, children, and elders. If you want them to live a good life, you must work hard to complete the mission. Those who don't meet the requirements will be kicked out at any time. 2 months later, I want tall buildings to be built from the ground on Cloud Mountain. Chapter 467. Shocking. Yin Li's heart was truly shaken at this moment. Li Zixuan was a greenhorn, but he was able to settle the matter in an instant. His actions were clear about rewards and punishments, and he was both firm and soft. His methods were extremely shrewd and ruthless. Even Yin Li, who had lived half his life as an old loach in the officialdom, had to admit that he was impressed. What surprised Yin Li the most was that from Li Zixuan's arrangements, he saw a trace of a soldier's swift and decisive style. Although Yin Li was a civil official, he had experienced 3 dynasties and had also encountered chaotic times. He was very clear about the nature of the generals in the army. When Li Zixuan spoke just now, his temperament was like a general lecturing his soldiers. This was hard for Yin Li to accept. How could a 14 to 15-year-old young man have the ability to lead an army into battle? Yin Li shook his head and hypnotized himself in his heart. Illusion. This must be an illusion. In fact, this wasn't an illusion. Li Zixuan wanted to use military means to manage the construction team of more than 10,000 people. The punishment he mentioned wasn't to deliberately make things difficult for these farmers. He also didn't have any intention of discriminating against them. In his previous life, his father would go to the city to work when he wasn't working. The people in the city called them migrant workers. Now, this group of people was in a similar situation to his father in his previous life. Of course, he wouldn't deliberately make things difficult for these men who used their hands, labor, and even life's potential to support a family. The reason why he proposed these punishment measures was mainly because his father had said in his previous life that there were many crafty people who slacked off and worked for free. Another important reason was that the construction team he recruited was unusually large. If he didn't set up a perfect management system, the construction site would become a mess. Everyone wouldn't know what they were supposed to do or whether they were doing the same work as others. In this way, the construction speed of Yanwan College would be a snail's pace. Only by properly organizing the division of labor could everyone be used to their fullest potential. Only by having a reasonable reward and punishment system could everyone be motivated to work. Yin Xiaoning looked at Li Zixuan with a trace of resentment and a trace of complexity. He was resentful because Li Zixuan had thrown the difficult task of being the head of the construction site to him. One must know that being a qualified general was far more difficult than being a low-level soldier. This was because a general often had to consider all aspects of the situation and make the best use of people. God knows how much brain power he would have to use in order to assign tasks to these 10,000 people. Yin Xiaoning was terrified just thinking about it. He was just a technical geek. The reason why there was still a trace of complexity in his eyes was entirely because Li Zixuan's well-organized arrangements just now had dealt him a blow. Li Zixuan was better than him in terms of martial arts and machinery, but his ability to dispatch and command was actually so strong as well. Damn it, he was not giving others a way out. As for Li Tai, the little fatty's eyes were filled with admiration. He felt that Li Zixuan's way of giving orders was very domineering. In just a few months, a hater had turned into a bootlicker or a hardcore fan. This was unbelievable. Li Zixuan probably didn't expect it himself. Shouting, I'll leave these people to you. I know it's hard work, but you have to bear with it. It's a good opportunity for you to train yourself. After all, you'll inherit Uncle Yan's legacy sooner or later. Li Zixuan put on a smile and turned around to speak to Yin Xiaoning. At this moment, Yin Xiaoning really wanted to curse Li Zixuan, but he didn't know if he should. He looked at Li Zixuan with hidden bitterness. He wanted to refuse, but as soon as he said that, his father's scolding would probably come from the side. As for whether the slap would follow, it was really hard to say. It all depended on his father's mood. Okay, I'll try my best. After holding it in for a long time, Yin Xiaoning only spat out 6 words. Just as he had expected, his father beside him was stroking his beard and nodding in satisfaction when he heard this. Li Zixuan saw his friend's depression. He went forward and patted Yin Xiaoning's shoulder. He laughed. Haha, don't worry, Xiaoning. Uncle Yin and I will come over to help you often. You're not the only one fighting. My father-in-law, Second Master Lu Lijing, and the rest are all on your side. With their help, what are you afraid of? Han Tianhu, Second Master Lu, and the rest quickly agreed and expressed that they would fully support Yin Xiaoning's work. As for Yin lied, he felt that he was tricked by Li Zixuan. What did he mean by Uncle Yin and I will come over to help you often? As the boss of the Ministry of Works, he was so busy every day. How could he have time to come over often? He told Li Zixuan that he would come over occasionally, but he didn't say that he would come over often. In fact, this was where Li Zixuan was treacherous. He kidnapped someone's son to a high position. He didn't believe that his father wouldn't come over to help him. Logically speaking, Li Zixuan really needed the help of a master architect like Yin lied. If he could use money to invite this big shot over, Li Zixuan would be willing to pay 10,000 strings of cash. However, old Yin held an important position. How could he be invited over with money? Therefore, Li Zixuan could only settle for the second best and take the crooked path. After listening to Li Zixuan's words, Yin Xiaoning felt a little better. Although there were a lot of people and craftsmen in front of him, as the saying goes, a strong dragon cannot defeat a snake in its old haunts. This was Plum Village. He had the support of Second Master Lu and the rest. Why would he be afraid of these people rebelling? Therefore, he nodded and said, Okay, I'll try my best. If there's anything I don't understand, I'll ask you. Haha, you're a good brother. When Yinhuang College is completed, I'll treat Brother Xiaoning to a good drink. Li Zixuan laughed. Then he pulled Yin Xiaoning over and whispered, Xiaoning, try to use the young men from Plum Village and Han Village for the captains and team leaders in the construction team. They're all trustworthy and will be on your side. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that there are outstanding leaders among the others. You can promote them as you see fit. As for the team leader and deputy team leader, you'd better use some experienced craftsmen. Other than being able to lead the team well, they can also give you some useful advice. It's best not to put people from the same village into a team, because they're likely to group up. There are only 2 results of grouping up. One is that the group becomes more diligent, and the other is that the group becomes lazier. However, the latter is more likely. As for the law enforcement team, you can do as you see fit. You can also go out and recruit other people. Yes, Little Xian's advice is very pertinent. Ning, you must remember it. Yin lied, stroked his beard, and looked at his son as he reminded him. Yes, I know, Dad. Yin Xiaoning nodded. Hey, Xiaoning, you have to leave a team leader position for me. I must participate in the construction of Yinhuang College. I want to be the team leader. After Li Tai eavesdropped on the 3 people's whispering, he suddenly pulled Yin Xiaoning and said, Chapter 468. I want to be a regiment commander. Li Tai's words really scared Yin Lide, Yin Xiaoning, and the others. As for Li Zishuan, he was thunderstruck. Your Highness, this is not appropriate. As a prince, how can you do such a lowly thing? His Majesty will definitely not agree. Yin Lide frowned and tried to persuade him. If his son dared to be so mischievous, he would have beaten him up long ago. However, this person was Li Tai, so he could only use his mouth to persuade him patiently. A lowly thing? May I ask, Minister Yin, when did hard work become a lowly thing? Li Tai seemed to be prepared for this. He cupped his hands at Yin Lide and said seriously, Qingke has been studying engineering with you for several months. Engineering is the study of engineering. If I don't experience engineering, how can I call myself a disciple of engineering? As for my father, I will personally report to him. Yin Lide was silent. In fact, he regretted what he said just now. If he said that engineering was a lowly thing, wouldn't he be scolding himself? However, to let a prince personally participate in the construction of a project, this was somewhat unreasonable no matter what. Since your Highness has made up your mind, I have nothing to say. It's better to leave the trouble to Li Heir. Yin Lide thought in his heart. Li Zishuan raised his eyebrows and looked at Li Tai in surprise. He didn't think that this little fatty would be able to speak such a serious truth. It really made him look at him in a new light. He had a bright future ahead of him. Li Tai was delighted, but Li Zishuan interrupted at an inappropriate time. Qingke, if you want to experience engineering, that's fine. However, you don't have any experience. I'm afraid you won't be able to take on the position of a regiment commander. I'll give you the position of a captain first to train yourself. This kind of practical training will also be of great benefit to you. Li Tai was suddenly very depressed. He just helped Li Zishuan, but Li Zishuan exposed him without mercy. He really didn't give him any face at all. However, Li Zishuan's last two lines made his eyes light up. Putting everything else aside, Li Tai's cultural attainment was still very high. Knowledge on paper is ultimately shallow. I'll have to do it personally. Good, good, good. Every word you said is a gem. I've learned a lot. After seriously savoring it for a long time, Li Tai cupped his hands at Li Zishuan and said solemnly. Yin Lide also glanced at Li Zishuan in surprise. He never expected Li Zishuan to be so proficient in the Tao of poetry, to be able to recite such a beautiful line. Haha, that's fine. Shouting, you can lead them and start working. Uncle Wang has the name list of all of them. You can see if you can divide them into groups. Uncle Yin and I will help you draw up an overall progress plan for the construction of the academy. You can use it as a reference in the future. Li Zishuan went forward and patted Yin Xiaoning's shoulder, urging him to hurry up and work. Oh, okay, father, I'll go first. Yin Xiaoning nodded his head and greeted his father. Go. Do well. Don't embarrass the Yin family. Even if I'm busy with work in the future and can't come often, your second uncle will come often to assist you. Every father had the heart to see his son become a dragon. Yin Lide was no exception. He really hoped that his son could grow up quickly after going through this big project. Although he wouldn't be as monstrous as Li Zishuan, he must be able to take charge of things independently. I understand. Yin Xiaoning cupped his hands and brought Wang Zhong, Second Master Lu Lijing, and Han Lijing to divide the construction corps into groups. Li Zishuan, on the other hand, took the floor plan of the Yanwang Academy and followed Yin Lide to a temporary pergola. This simple and crude shed became their temporary combat command post. Li Zishuan was very happy when Yin Lide said, even if I'm busy with work in the future and can't come often, your second uncle will come often to assist you. Yin Lide's construction skills weren't much worse than Yin Lide's. With the help of the Yin family, the construction of Yanwang College would be completely stable. It's time to eat. It's time to eat. At noon, a group of hundreds of old, weak women and children carried fragrant dishes to Yunshan Mountain. The workers' first meal at the construction site began. It wasn't easy to cook for more than 10,000 people. Almost all the women in Han Village and Plum Village who knew how to cook were invited to help in the kitchen. Yunshan Mountain didn't even have a stove, so naturally, they couldn't cook here. Therefore, this support group brought the food up from Plum Village at the foot of the mountain. Anyway, it was summer now, so they weren't afraid that the food would get cold on the way. Leaders of each group, get your people to line up properly. Don't look like the reincarnation of a starving ghost who hasn't eaten for years. It wasn't easy to cook for more than 10,000 people. Similarly, it wasn't easy to arrange for more than 10,000 people to eat together. Fortunately, Yin Xiaoning used the whole morning to divide the more than 10,000 people into groups, teams, and groups. Now, it was much more convenient to command. Yes, Commander Yin. The 5 leaders of the construction corps were Hu Hanyun, Second Master Liu, Chao Xiaofu, Gong Minyong, and Ni Taifeng. Needless to say, Hu Hanyun and Second Master Liu had a certain amount of influence in Han Village and Plum Village. Moreover, they had helped others to build houses before. Chao Xiaofu and Gong Minyong were the craftsmen sent by the Ministry of Works this time. They had rich construction experience and had worked on many big projects under Yin Lide. Moreover, they were very familiar with Yin Xiaoning. As for Ni Taifeng, he was the representative of the elite craftsmen in Strange Pavilion Workshop. When the workshop still belonged to the Yin family, Ni Taifeng had worked in the workshop. Of course, Yin Xiaoning knew him. Overall, Yin Xiaoning's arrangement was quite reasonable. After the 50 teams were lined up, the support group started to get food for the workers. The fragrance of the meat could be smelled from afar. Everyone couldn't help but gulp and salivate. Gulp! What a delicious fragrance of meat. Boss is really generous. I, Ma Sanxiang, haven't smelled such a wonderful fragrance of meat in a long time. Gulp! Just for such fragrant meat, our group can't be the last in the future. Otherwise, won't we have no meat to eat? Yes, we can't be the last in the future. Tisk, ignorant. Who in Han Village can't afford to eat meat now? We all have a meal every few days. Ha! Same for Plum Village. Amidst the envious and boastful voices of the crowd, the workers took their food one by one. Now, there was no canteen on Yinshan Mountain, let alone tables and chairs. Most of these people were rough people and didn't care about the red tape. They just squatted under the shade of the tree and enjoyed their delicious lunch in groups of 3 to 5. Young master, why are you here line up too? Please stand in front of me. As the leader, Hu Hanyun didn't have any special privileges. After he arranged everything, he came to line up. However, he realized that Li Zixuan was actually behind him. He quickly turned around and said, Chapter 469. Uncle Hu, you can line up. I'm not in a hurry to eat, so I'll line up slowly. And you guys, don't worry about me. Line up in your own line. Eating is the most important thing in the world. No one is more honorable than anyone else when it comes to eating. Li Zixuan waved to Mr. Hu, and then he saw the people in front of the line looking at him hesitantly. He hurriedly said to those people in a kind manner. At this moment, Li Zixuan could be described as kind and amiable. He was totally different from when he was lecturing the people above. This made the craftsmen feel a little confused, but at the same time, they felt a sense of familiarity. The most direct manifestation was that when the foreigners in the line passed by Li Zixuan after getting their food, they were no longer trembling with fear like before. Instead, they would smile and say, "Hello, sir," or "Hello, boss." This was also the effect that Li Zixuan wanted. As the saying goes, relax to a certain extent. Blindly making others afraid of you would not work. That would also affect the efficiency of work. Li Zixuan did not deliberately eat at the construction site to put on a show. He did not need to put on a show. The reason why he stayed for lunch was that, firstly, he wanted to see how the food at the construction site was and whether it needed to be adjusted. Secondly, he had to continue to discuss the detailed plan of the construction of the academy with Yin Lide in the afternoon. It was not worthwhile to go back in the middle of the day. At this moment, the sun in the sky was the hottest time of the day. Carrying the food, Li Zixuan came to the shed. In the morning, the people below would naturally bring in tables and stools. The shed was now fully equipped. Li Zixuan came to the table and sat down. Opposite him, Li Tai, the little fatty, was staring at the big fat meat in the bowl. If it was said that Li Zixuan stayed for lunch because of the situation, then Li Tai stayed for the sake of putting on a show. The little fatty had just become the captain of the 8th team of the construction corps in the morning and could be considered as old Hu's subordinate. He wanted to set an example and raise the recognition of the people below him. Li Tai's royal education taught him that if a superior wanted to capture the hearts of the people, he had to share weal and woe with his subordinates. In this aspect, his old man, Li Er, had perfected his military career in the early years. Thus, all the generals of the Great Tang were loyal to Li Er. However, Li Tai was not Li Er. This little fatty was used to living a luxurious life since he was young. He had very strict requirements for food. In this aspect, even Li Zixuan admitted defeat. Otherwise, how could he be so fat? Now, it was his first time eating such a big pot of food. Eating such fat meat, just looking at it made him feel nauseous. How could he eat it? Huh? What? You can't eat it. I told you to go back and eat, but you insisted on staying and asking for trouble. Let's see what you can do now. There are no restaurants in this wilderness, and your first team's mission in the afternoon is very important. Let's see how you can order the people below to work when you're hungry. Li Zixuan glanced at Li Tai, who was in a dilemma, and said sarcastically. Although he himself didn't like to eat fat meat, he was more witty. When he had just finished eating, he gave all the fat meat in the bowl to old Hu. These fat meat may be inferior food to people like him and Li Tai, but for people like old Hu, who were at the bottom of the labor force, this was top quality food. Not only did it taste good, but also made them hungry. If you used lean meat to exchange with them for fat meat, they wouldn't be too happy. Who said I can't eat it? F***CK, little Xian, you actually gave me special treatment. Why is there no fat meat in your food? Li Tai was about to argue, but when he saw that there was no fat meat in Li Zixuan's bowl, only minced meat and vegetables, he immediately called out Li Zixuan for giving special treatment. Bullshit, you brat, there must be something wrong with your eyes. I just don't have fat meat in my bowl. Aren't the other dishes the same as yours? When did I give you special treatment? Li Zixuan couldn't wait to drag this brat over and stuff him into his bowl. He glared at him and said in exasperation, "Oh, you should have said so earlier. Then I'll throw away this fat meat and eat vegetables like you." Li Tai didn't feel embarrassed at all because he misunderstood others. This guy thought that Li Zixuan threw away the fat meat in his bowl. He propped up his fat body and prepared to go out and throw away the meat. Li Zixuan said angrily, "Stop. Which eye of yours saw me throw away the meat? I only gave the meat to Uncle Hu. It's fine if you don't like to eat some dishes, but you can't waste food. The food you don't like to eat is a delicacy in the eyes of many people, but you would rather throw away the meat than share it with others. How hateful! Wine and meat stinks at the Vermilion Gates. Frozen bones lie on the road." This is exactly what a prince in the palace who doesn't understand the suffering of the common people. This was the first time Li Zixuan said such harsh words. It was also the first time Li Tai was reprimanded by someone other than Li Er. Li Tai was so angry that his eyes turned red. If the person in front of him wasn't Li Zixuan, he would have drawn his sword and killed him. At this moment, his heart was filled with anger and grievance. Yes, it was grievance. His nature wasn't bad. He just didn't think of this method of giving away the fat meat. Wine and meat stinks at the Vermilion Gates. Frozen bones lie on the road. These two lines of the poem also gave Li Tai a great shock. He clenched his teeth and didn't say a word. His face was green and white. He wanted to fly into a rage, slam the table, and fight it out with Li Zixuan. But subconsciously, he felt that Li Zixuan was telling him this for his own good. Moreover, he didn't want to be the main character of Wine and Meat Stinks at the Vermilion Gates. Frozen bones lie on the road. He didn't want future generations to think of him, Li Tai, as a prince. If that happened, wouldn't his reputation go down in history? What? You don't agree? You think what I said is wrong? Good. Then go out and take a look. See if the fat meat you threw away is the supreme delicacy in the eyes of those craftsmen. Li Tai's face changed between green and white. Li Zixuan didn't care and continued to reprimand him. He had made up his mind to be a strict teacher today. After interacting with Li Tai for so long, Li Zexuan's attitude towards the little fatty changed from being cautious at the beginning to keeping a distance. Later on, Li Tai pretended to be his disciple, and he only taught him the name of a teacher. In the end, Li Tai accepted him wholeheartedly and wholeheartedly taught him. During this time, Li Zexuan naturally had a very deep understanding of Li Tai's personality. This little fatty's nature wasn't bad. He was just a little arrogant. In these few months of interaction, Li Zexuan felt Li Tai's intelligence, Li Tai's craftiness, Li Tai's arrogance, Li Tai's sincerity sometimes, and Li Tai's funny joy sometimes. Li Zexuan felt that Li Tai was just a smart child who hadn't been completely spoiled yet. Chapter 470. Yes, strictly speaking, Li Tai was really just a child who hadn't been completely spoiled. Anyone who was born into a family like Li Tai's, who was talented and intelligent, and who was deeply doted on by the current emperor, would have a heart of pride. It could be said that if they were in Li Tai's shoes, 99% of people wouldn't do better than Li Tai. Moreover, Li Tai was sincere towards the people he approved of. Compared to those who put on a good face to everyone, but secretly schemed and plotted, Li Tai was much better. Li Zexuan's heart had always been tangled and conflicted about Li Tai. According to the trajectory of history, Li Tai was just a failed product in the struggle for imperial power, and so was his brother Li Chengxian. Li Zexuan didn't plan to get too close to Li Er's sons from the start. He didn't want to participate in the complicated struggle for the throne, and he didn't want to become cannon fodder in other people's political struggles. But man proposes, God disposes. Moreover, man wasn't a plant, so how could he be emotionless? Under various coincidences, his relationship with the two brothers, Li Tai and Li Chengxian, became closer and closer. Moreover, after interacting for so long, he found that Li Chengxian wasn't as sinister, ruthless, disloyal, unfilial, or even homosexual as the history books said. Li Tai also wasn't as arrogant and conceited as the history books said. These two brothers treated him, as a friend, with sincerity and true nature. Li Zexuan's heart gradually wavered. He didn't know if the history books were wrong, or if Li Tai and Li Chengxian's shortcomings were completely reflected in the later stages of their personality changes. If it was the latter, then Li Zexuan didn't know if he should rescue these two brothers. Later on, when Li Zexuan proposed Gong Shui, Li Tai immediately became one of the staunch supporters of Gong Shui. After that, Li Tai's performance was very satisfactory. Only then did he completely treat Li Tai as his true disciple, and planned to train him with all his might in the future. Since he had decided to take in Li Tai as his disciple, Li Zexuan naturally would not allow the little fatty and Li Tai to turn against each other in the future. He wanted to change Li Tai's fate. He wanted to change history. But in order to do this, he had to first change Li Tai's life values and get rid of some of Li Tai's shortcomings, which were also his weaknesses. Therefore, when it was time to criticize severely, he had to stand up and be a strict teacher. If Li Tai fell out with him because of this, then Li Zexuan could only say that they were not destined to be master and disciple. Bang! After struggling for a while, Li Tai slammed his chopsticks heavily on the table, and then he left without saying a word. Not sure if he really went to look at the workers outside, or if he was angered by Li Zexuan's words and decided to quit. Li Zexuan did not chase after him. He didn't even look outside the door. Taoists practiced following one's heart, governing by doing nothing, and letting nature take its course. If Li Tai really quit because of this, or even quit Gong Shui, Li Zexuan could only express regret. He definitely would not kneel down and beg Li Tai to change his mind. He spread Gong Shui out of interest, not for his own benefit. Without Gong Shui, he could still live a simple life. But logically speaking, Li Zexuan felt that with his understanding of Li Tai would most likely not give up his initial ideals and pursuit. He believed in his own judgment. Smells good. I didn't expect to come here to work. Not only is the salary high, but the food is also so good. It's almost the same as our family's New Year's meal. Oh, who said it wasn't? TSK, such delicious meat. If it weren't for the boss's rule that we have to stay at the construction site at night, I would want to bring these back home for my wife and children to eat. Sigh. Yes. My eldest child hasn't eaten meat for half a year. We can't eat such delicious meat even during the new year. Sigh. I don't know if the boss is recruiting children. My son is taller than me, and his strength is almost as strong as mine. It's just that he's too skinny. It would be great if the boss could recruit him, just for every meal with meat. It's worth it even if the salary is reduced by half. Huh. Woolhour, you really know how to scheme. Sigh. I heard that the villagers of Plum Village and Han Village can eat meat every few days. I don't know if it's true. Of course it's true. Didn't you see it when we came over this morning? The children here are much fatter than the children in our village. Also, look at their houses. Most of them have been renovated. How can our shabby, thatched huts be compared to them? Sigh. Who told them to have such a good boss? Sigh, let's eat quickly. Now that their boss is also our boss, he's not bad to us. We have to work hard later. At the very least, we have to be worthy of this delicious meal at noon. Li Tai walked aimlessly in the forest. He heard the villagers' exclamations and discussions about the food. His heart was suddenly filled with mixed feelings. Was this the arrival of the golden age that the ministers in the imperial court talked about? The villagers couldn't even afford to eat fatty meat. What kind of golden age was this? At this moment, Li Tai's heart was filled with anger and sorrow. Li Zishuan was right. He was just a prince who didn't eat the hardships of the world. If Li Zishuan hadn't reminded him and stopped him, he would have thrown away the delicious food in the villagers' mouths. If that happened, how would he be different from the Jinhui Emperor, who said, if the people don't have rice to satisfy their hunger, why not eat meat? Li Tai never thought of himself as a saint. He also never felt that he had the responsibility or obligation to let the people in the world live a good life. That was what an emperor should do. Although he had fought openly and secretly with Li Changxian in the past, it wasn't for the position of crown prince. It was just two children fighting for their father's love. That was all. At this age, Li Tai didn't have the heart to fight for the position of crown prince. He didn't want to be a saint, nor did he want to be an emperor. Therefore, Li Tai naturally believed that the lives of the people in the world had nothing to do with him as the king of Wei. However, only by truly experiencing things would he understand his true nature. Surrounded by a group of poor commoners who couldn't even eat meat, Li Tai felt that he couldn't be happy being the king of Wei. All he could feel was sorrow and bitterness. Brothers of Regiment 1, although the construction site is full, don't king eat it. If you're too full to walk, how are you going to quarry in the afternoon? If your performance is poor, you will only be able to eat radishes and vegetables tomorrow. Hu Hanyun's roar came from the forest. Ha! Got it, Regiment Commander Hu. Ha! The villagers immediately roared with laughter. Although this king has no obligation to save the people of the world, this king has an obligation to live a happy life. Only when the people around me live a good life can this king live a happy life. Meat and wine stink behind the door of the Vermilion, but there are frozen bones on the road. This will be a lifelong warning for me, Li Tai. Li Tai, will definitely not be a king whose name will go down in infamy for 10,000 years. At this moment, Li Tai's eyes emitted a dazzling glow. He looked up at the sky above Cloud Mountain and muttered to himself. Chapter 471. Inside the shed. It didn't take long for Li Zishuan to finish the food in his bowl. Putting aside the ingredients, the taste of the food was similar to the school cafeteria in his previous life. In this life, although he was more particular about what he ate at home, he wasn't someone who hadn't suffered before. Naturally, he wouldn't find it hard to swallow, just because the quality of the food wasn't as good as at home. At this moment, he was about to clean up the bowls and chopsticks and take them out. However, he saw Li Tai walking in with a young man. Hello, boss. I'm the vice captain of the 8th team of the 1st Regiment, Gu Xiaomao. I came from Xinfeng County's Stone Village. The young man was probably not even 20 years old. He was very young, and his whole body exuded a quick-wittedness. He had been trembling with fear as he followed behind Li Tai. After entering the shed, he discovered that Li Zishuan was also here. He hurriedly came over and bowed to greet him. Hello. Li Zishuan nodded lightly and looked at Li Tai. It would be a lie if Li Zishuan said that he was not surprised that Gu Xiaomao had become a vice captain at such a young age. However, a hero's background was not important. Li Zishuan did not question or look down on Gu Xiaomao because of this. Li Zishuan believed that Yin Xiaoning had his reasons for promoting a young man like this. His main target was still Li Tai. The little fatty's face was expressionless. No one could tell what he was thinking. He walked over to the table where he had his meal just now and shouted at Gu Xiaomao. Gu Xiaomao, come over here. Hey, coming. Gu Xiaomao responded and hurriedly ran over. Here, all the meat is for you. Bring your bowl over. Li Tai raised his bowl and pouted his lips as he said, Gu Xiaomao was dumbfounded. He never thought that Li Tai would call him over for this. What's wrong? This king. I have never touched this food before. Why are you complaining about it? Li Tai stared at him and was about to throw a tantrum. No. Gu Xiaomao almost peed his pants when he heard that. He hurriedly explained, Your Highness, this lowly one wouldn't dare to dislike it. It's just that this lowly one doesn't dare to eat Your Highness food. What is Highness? Gu Xiaomao, let me tell you one more time. In these 2 months, there is no Highness on Cloud Mountain, only Captain Li. Please call me Captain Li in the future. Do you hear me? Li Tai frowned and scolded. Looking at his serious face, Li Zishuan almost burst out laughing. Please call me Captain Li. This sentence was too *king out of character. However, this was not the right time. Li Zishuan could only hold back his laughter and watch how Li Tai would play. Yes, Captain Li Xiaomao understands. Gu Xiaomao touched the beads of sweat on his forehead. This was not sweat from heat, but cold sweat from fear. Only the heavens knew how painful it was to be the vice captain of a prince. Anyway, Gu Xiaomao was under a lot of pressure. Then why aren't you bringing your bowl over? Oh, thank you, Captain Li. Although Gu Xiaomao was very greedy for those fat slices of meat, he still wanted to see who gave them to him. Looking at the pile of fat slices in his bowl, Gu Xiaomao was very anxious. All right, hurry up and eat outside. You still have work to do in the afternoon. Li Tai put all the fat slices into Gu Xiaomao's bowl and waved his hand to chase him away. Yes, Captain. Gu Xiaomao felt as if he had been pardoned and quickly ran away with his bowl. In an instant, only Li Zishuan and Li Tai were left in the shed. Li Tai sat down and finished the food in his bowl. He did not even frown. He was a completely different person from the person who was having a hard time eating. Seeing this, Li Zishuan knew that Li Tai had thought things through. The reason why Li Tai was still unwilling to talk to him was probably because he couldn't bring himself to do so. After all, his words just now were indeed a bit harsh. It was already good enough that Li Tai, who had always lived like a prince, didn't use a sword to cut him down. Thinking of this, Li Zishuan smiled. He did not say anything to provoke the little fatty. He took his cutlery and prepared to leave. Sir, at this moment, Li Zishuan, who had not spoken to Li Tai since he came in, suddenly spoke. Li Zishuan was startled. In private situations, Li Tai rarely called him Mr. Usually, he would use the name between friends. Now he was calling him that. What was the little fatty trying to say? Sir, can engineering allow the people of the world to wear new clothes and eat meat? Seeing that Li Zishuan paused, Li Tai continued to ask. Li Zishuan was silent for a moment before saying, Of course not. When Li Tai heard this, his brows furrowed into a ball. His eyes stared fixedly at Li Zishuan's back, wanting an explanation. Engineering is just a kind of knowledge, just like Confucianism. It's just a dead thing. For the people of the world to have enough food and clothing, and for every family to be able to eat meat. The key is how the ruler acts. Although Emperor Qin and Emperor Hanwu were the divine lords of the world, they only managed to pacify the world so that the country would not be bullied by foreigners. The people of the country still did not have enough food and clothing. Compared to Confucianism, engineering has its unique characteristics. It is more like a tool to increase the productivity of the people. As for whether this tool can be fully utilized, it depends on whether the ruler is willing to use it. Fortunately, the current emperor was magnanimous and was willing to give engineering a chance to flourish. Then, the result might be different. So, Qingke, if the young people of Tang can all wield the sharp blade of engineering, although I don't dare to say that 100% of the people of Tang can have enough food and clothing, I'm sure that 80% to 90% of the people of Tang can have enough food and clothing. At that time, we will truly usher in an unprecedented golden age. Li Zixuan knew that Li Tai would have doubts in his heart. He put his hands behind his back and said in a deep voice, "In the modern era, even a country as great as America still had beggars." Thus, Li Zixuan did not dare to guarantee that 100% of the people of Tang could have enough food and clothing once the industrial production level of Tang improved. However, he could still guarantee that most people would have enough food and clothing. Tai understands. I'm willing to work with Sir to bring engineering to greater heights. Li Tai gave a disciple salute and cupped his fists in a serious manner. Good. I hope that when Yanhuang College leads the people of Tang to have enough food and clothing, there will be a great achievement in it. Li Zixuan waved his hand with a smile and went out the door. Li Zixuan was very happy that Li Tai could walk out of his inner demons and comprehend such principles. In the end, he still valued Li Tai very much. If it were someone else, he would not have put in so much effort. Li Tai, don't need great achievements. I just want to live happily. Li Tai looked at the door and mumbled to himself. Chapter 472. Hu Hanyun's first construction corps was mainly responsible for the supply and transportation of construction materials at the construction site. The building materials required by the Yanhuang Academy generally consisted of mud bricks, lime, glutinous rice mortar, stone, and wood. The first three were bought from various places with money. For materials like mud bricks, which required a large quantity, a small team had to be sent to the brick kiln to bring them back. In the Tang Dynasty, there were many brick kilns among the people, but most of them were small in scale. This time, Yanhuang College's construction corps cooperated with an official kiln near Chang. It was more than 30 miles away from Mei Village. The walls of Chang and the construction of the Imperial Palace were all built with mud bricks from that kiln. Logically speaking, Li Zixuan could build his own brick kiln if he wanted. Moreover, the bricks from his kiln would definitely be stronger than those from other kilns. Building a kiln seemed to be very difficult, but it was not difficult at all to actually start. As long as you mastered the technique, building a brick kiln was even easier than building a house. The only difficult thing to solve was the problem of the chimney. It should be known that the chimney of the brick kiln in modern times was 30 to 40 meters high, which is a bit difficult in the Tang Dynasty where there were no tower cranes or scaffolding. However, it was not impossible to solve. Li Zixuan knew of a way to burn bricks without a chimney. The circular kiln. The circular kiln looked like a row of long bunkers. Its height was less than 5 meters, but its length was more than 200 feet. The biggest advantage of the circular kiln was that it could burn bricks in a circular manner. It could build 20 kilns, and each kiln could be lit individually. Compared to the conjoined kilns of this era, which had 8 kilns in each group, the circular kiln was more efficient and more fuel efficient. Although there were many advantages to building his own brick kiln, Li Zixuan did not intend to do so. He could not build all the materials by himself. Could he? That would take a lot of effort, and this kind of monopolization was not good. He had to leave some profits for others, right? In the afternoon, Hu Hanyun took more than 3,000 people of the 1st Regiment to hunt in the mountains. To be precise, they were going to cut wood. They had to bring back a batch of wood and hand it over to the other regiments to build temporary housing for the workers. For the entire construction corps, this was the first day of work. Other than the division of formations, there was only the construction of a place to settle down. The official building of the academy would have to wait until the next day. Fortunately, it was summer now, and the workers' residences only needed to be able to block the sun and rain. There was no need to think about keeping warm, so it was very simple to build. The sun was setting. Cloud Mountain was still very lively. Rows of small sheds were arranged in the forest, and there was a number hanging in front of each shed. 99% of the workers did not know how to read, let alone Arabic numerals. However, there were so many sheds that Lisa Schwan could only order each of them to remember the number on the sign of their shed in order to prevent the workers from going to the wrong place at night. Seeing that the city gate of Chang was about to close and the workers' residences at the construction site were about to be completed, he asked someone to finally tie and prepare to return to the city. As the chief commander of more than 10,000 people, Yin Xiaoning felt that he was shouldering a heavy responsibility. The workers' residences had not been completed yet, so he would not go back with them at night. As for Yanlight and Faubert, they had already gone back 2 hours ago. Xiaoxian, why don't you go back alone? There are still 2 people in the 8th Squad of the 1st Regiment who haven't finished building their residences yet. Li Tai seemed to be intoxicated. This was the first sentence he said when he was called to Lisa Schwan. Lisa Schwan heard this, stared at him, and scolded. Go away. If you stay outside the city, His Majesty and Her Majesty will skin me alive if they know about it. If the residences are not ready, just leave it to Gu Xiaomao. What are you doing here? Li Tai came back to reality and remembered that he was a child with parents. He also understood that Lisa Schwan was telling the truth. He could not help but touch his nose, embarrassedly, and silently accept the organization's arrangement. Lisa Schwan glanced at him unhappily, then said to Gu Xiaomao, Xiaomao, I'll leave the remaining tasks of the 8th Squad of the 1st Regiment to you. Is there a problem? Gu Xiaomao was very perceptive. He knew that this was an opportunity for him to perform. He quickly said loudly, Boss, no problem. Absolutely no problem. You and the captain can go back to the city without worry. Did you hear that? They're fine here. Chinke, why don't you get on the horse? It'll be bad if the city gate closes later, Lisa Schwan urged. Oh, okay. Gu Xiaomao, I'll leave the 8th Squad to you. I'll come back tomorrow morning. Li Tai nodded his head and mounted his horse. However, he was still a little worried as he warned. Yes, Captain. Don't worry. The 2 of them rode at full speed and finally returned to Chang and city before sunset. Lisa Schwan naturally returned to Yongla Lane. As for the little fatty, he had to go to the palace before returning to Prince Wei's residence. After all, he had decided to participate in the construction of Yanhuang College today, and he had not gotten Li Er's permission yet. Chinke, where did you go and sweat so much? And I haven't seen you all day. At the Li Zheng Palace, Li Tai saw Li Er and Empress Zhang's son. They had just finished their meal because Li Tai could still smell the leftover aroma of the food in the air. He did not eat well at noon and did not eat well at night. The little fatty was now so hungry that his chest was sticking to his back. Of course, he would be more sensitive to the aroma of the food. Father, Yanhuang College started construction today. I went to Yinshan with the teacher and was busy the whole day. I just returned to the city and did not have time to take a bath. That's why I lost my composure. Please forgive me, Father. Li Tai answered Li Er's question, but he was thinking about how much food he should ask the chef to prepare when he returned to the prince's residence later. Oh, Chinke, you actually went to Yanhuang College to help? How could Li Er not know Li Tai's nature? That was why he was so surprised when he heard Li Tai's words. Empress Zhang's son also interrupted. Chinke, you left the city for the whole day without a word. I didn't expect you to go to the wilderness. It's a hot summer day. You must have suffered a lot, right? Thinking about what he had experienced today, Li Tai felt that it was hard, but he felt that it was more fulfilling. This day was equivalent to a month before. Mother, I didn't suffer. Instead, I learned a lot. I plan to help the teacher build the college in the next 2 months. I hope Father and Mother will allow it. What? Li Er raised his eyebrows and stared at Li Tai. He asked, You have never experienced construction before. How are you going to help Lisa Schwan build the college? Empress Zhang's son also frowned and asked, Chinke, as far as Mother knows, Xiaoxian has invited more than 10,000 craftsmen and commoners to participate in the construction of the college. The construction progress is naturally not a problem. Qingke, you have lived in the depths of the palace since you were young. How can you go and suffer? Chapter 473. Inside Li Zheng Hall. Li Tai cupped his hands to Li Heir and Zhang's son. Imperial father, Imperial mother, please allow me to report. It is precisely because this son has never experienced construction that this son wants to personally give it a try. Engineering, engineering, engineering. If this son does not experience construction, how can this son be called a disciple of engineering? What is learned on paper is shallow, and what is learned must be done personally. I believe that personally practicing is far more useful than reading books in a classroom. What is learned on paper is shallow, and what is learned must be done personally. Could these two lines be your new work? Qingke? Li Heir's eyes lit up. He did not mention whether Li Tai should go to the construction site, but instead, he was concerned about the poems. Li Tai was stunned and replied, Imperial father, this was written by Mr. Li. Oh, that kid? A few days ago, he wrote 2 love poems. I thought it was a coincidence. Now, it seems that Li Zishuan has some talent in poetry. What are the other 2 lines of the poem? Li Heir rubbed his chin and asked with interest. Li Tai was instantly speechless. His original intention was to share his insights at the construction site with Li Heir and Zhang's son, but before he could finish, Li Heir was concerned about the 2 lines of the poem. Wasn't he going too far off the topic? Imperial father, Mr. Li only said 2 lines of the poem. I know nothing about the rest, Li Tai said gloomily. Li Heir nodded, then frowned and did not speak. Empress Zhang's son was not as unreliable as Li Heir. After all, as a mother, she doted on her son more. At this moment, she frowned and said worriedly, although what you said makes sense, it will be even hotter on Yinshan in this scorching summer. You have never suffered since you were young. How will you be able to stand it? Li Heir also snapped out of his daze and nodded. Yes, Qingke, your imperial mother is right. It is easy to get heat stroke in the summer. Don't get involved. If you want to experience engineering practice, there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. As an emperor, Li Heir had always been strict with his sons. However, Li Tai was fat. Fat people were naturally afraid of the heat. Therefore, Li Heir was also very worried that Li Tai would get a heat stroke on this hot day. However, Li Tai's mind was now filled with the thought of leading his team to cause trouble. Why would he care about this little bit of difficulty? When he heard that Li Heir didn't agree, he quickly said, Imperial father, Imperial mother, this son is not afraid of the mere heat. This son only arranged for others to do the work and did not personally do the work, so it is not that tiring. The ones who worked really hard were the commoners. They were also Imperial father's people. Normally, they couldn't even afford to eat fat meat, but they had to do the hardest and most tiring work at the construction site. Just for a few dozen copper coins a day, they were willing to sweat like rain. If I don't go to Cloud Mountain today, I'm afraid I won't know these things for the rest of my life. This son doesn't want to be a prince who doesn't work hard, doesn't know the 5 grains, and doesn't care about the hardships of the commoners. I implore Imperial Father and Imperial Mother to fulfill my wish. These words were said sincerely by Li Tai. Li Heir and Zhang Suan's expressions also gradually became solemn. The atmosphere in the main hall became very heavy for a moment. After a long time, Li Heir stood up and came to Li Tai. He patted his shoulder and sighed. Qingke, you have really grown up. I didn't expect you to be able to understand so much in just a short day. I'm very gratified. Li Zishuan is a qualified teacher. Not bad, not bad. Qingke, since you have already thought it through, then go ahead and do it. Imperial father supports you. Empress Zhang's son opened her mouth, but she wasn't completely a loving mother. She hesitated for a moment, then came to her son's side and said softly, Imperial mother is also very gratified that you can say such words. Go, just take good care of yourself. Li Tai was both happy and touched. He hurriedly said, Thank you, Imperial father and Imperial mother, for your support. By the way, I am very curious about what happened in Yinshan today. It actually made you feel so much all of a sudden. Come, tell me and your Imperial mother. At the second watch period, the moon hung above the treetops. Li Tai had just come out of the Lijiang Palace. The moment the little fatty came out of the palace, he immediately became a runaway wild horse. Wu Chun Dao hurried back to the prince's residence and asked the kitchen to prepare food for this prince. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Li Tai sat in the carriage and hurriedly ordered the guards outside. He only wanted to eat meat now. Yes, your highness. Wu Chun Dao was stunned. This was the first time he had received such a strange order. He responded, then urged the war horse under him to gallop out. In the carriage, Li Tai rubbed his stomach and sank into the sofa. He let out a long breath and said, now I can finally fight side by side with my brothers of the 1st Regiment and the 8th Squad in peace. In the future, the name of Yanhuang College will spread through the ages, and it will also be thanks to me, Li Tai. F***CK. My stomach is really F***King hungry. Lijiang Palace. Zhongsun Palace. After the emperor and empress did it, Li Er held Empress Zhongsun and looked at the bed curtain above his head in a daze. Your Majesty, are you still thinking about what Kayer said just now? Empress Zhongsun leaned on Li Er's chest and asked softly. She had been husband and wife with Li Er for many years. Of course, they still had this bit of tacit understanding. In fact, what Li Tai said just now also touched Zhongsun's heart. That's right. Wine and meat go to waste at the door of the Vermilion, and there are frozen bones on the road. Li Zishuan, that brat, really dared to say that. Since the establishment of the Tang Dynasty, which of the emperors and ministers hasn't worked hard for the people and the country? In the end, they ended up with such an evaluation. What a great irony. Li Er came back to his senses, stroked Empress Zhongsun's back, and said with a long sigh, Your Majesty, that child probably said those words just to give Qing Ke a warning. He didn't mean anything else, but his words were indeed a little too harsh. I was thinking that with Qing Ke's temperament, she actually didn't break off with Xiao Xian after hearing those words. I have to say, ever since Ke followed Li Zishuan to study, his temperament has changed a lot. Emperor Zhongsun first helped Li Zishuan a little by saying a few words. After all, those 2 lines of the poem that satirized current politics still had some treason in it, and then sighed with emotion at Li Tai's recent changes. Li Er nodded and said, I understand what Guanyin Maid means. Qing Ke has indeed changed a lot recently. Li Zishuan's knowledge is outstanding. He paused, then continued, It's a good thing for young people to have dreams. I also hope that he and Qing Ke can build Yanhuang College well and carry forward the study of engineering. I give him a chance, and I only hope that in my lifetime, I can see the eternal prosperity that they speak of. Erlang, you definitely will. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.